My entitled manager is pissed off at me after I prevented a guest at our hotel from getting scammed, as she said that I could have gotten us all in trouble and gotten a bad review if he complained, claiming that it's not my job to keep someone from getting scammed and that I should have just kept my mouth shut. But honestly, right now, I'm very pissed off at my manager for even saying that this was a problem, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. I'm a 23-year-old female, and I work the front desk at a mid-range hotel. Yesterday, this older guy who's maybe in his late 60s checks in, and he seems completely normal. Well, today, he comes down and asks me to print some documents for him, and I say sure because, that's part of my job. He then hands me his phone to print something off, and I can't help but see what's on the screen. It's a long email chain with someone claiming to be with Microsoft support, saying his computer has been hacked and he needs to pay $500 in gift cards immediately just to unlock it. He's been talking to them for days and genuinely believes they're helping him out. I politely asked him about it, and he started explaining the whole thing. I then gently told him that this is a very common scam, and that Microsoft would never ask for gift cards or call you out of the blue. He got defensive at first, but then his face just fell, and he looked absolutely devastated. I helped him block the number, and I told him not to send any money. He then thanked me and went right back to his room. But now my manager is pissed off. She said that I overstepped, that it's not my place to give financial advice to any guest, and that if he complains or gets upset, we could get a bad review. I then told her I wasn't going to watch an old man get scammed out of $500 just to avoid a potential complaint. She then said, next time I need to mind my own business and just do my job. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Did I step out of line by warning this guy? Because right now I'm incredibly pissed off about this. Dude, I would hate having a manager like that because this is like the epitome of some soul-sucking loser who's only masquerading as someone who cares about the customer, but in reality, they just want to not get in trouble. And trust me, those are two very different things. Like, holy crap, on the one hand, you have the original poster who's like actually looking out for this guy, which by the way, that was the right thing to do. And then on the other hand, you've got a manager being like, wait, no, don't do that. If they complain, we'll get a bad review. But it's like, dude, this guy was about to get scammed. It starts with $500 in gift cards and then it goes up from there. What are you talking about? Of course I'm going to help him out. Like, come on. So yeah, your manager's an idiot. You absolutely did the right thing. And the fact that they would ever get pissed off about this is just insane in my opinion. Because what you did is the epitome of doing good customer service. And the fact that she can't see this is obvious evidence that she should not be a manager. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Today, I got some really petty revenge on a guy who hooked up with me and ghosted me like the next day, where I pretended I wanted to hook up again, only to ghost him right back and give him a taste of his own medicine. Here's what happened. Okay, so I was fresh out of a relationship and was really hurt, so I went to dating apps looking for a hookup to get my mind off of things. And yeah, I know this is not healthy and I definitely don't recommend this. I matched with this one guy and we hit it off instantly. I was honest with him about my situation and he was really understanding. He said all the right things, how he was going to be a good bounce back from the last relationship, and how he even wants something more than a hookup since we get along really well. We were talking every day for about a week, and at the week's end, we finally hooked up. The day after, everything was still going normally, but after that, he stopped responding to my messages and would leave me on read. I would also see when he comes online too, so it made me feel really disrespected. I sent him one message saying that if he was ghosting me, he should just unmatch with me. And the next time I came to the app, he was not there anymore. I was so sad after this. It reopened so many wounds and had the adverse effect and made me think about my ex more and how I would never find a guy like my ex. Anyways, about 3 weeks later, I see a certain like from the same dude but on a different app. At this time, I was healed up a little and no longer as desperate. So I wanted to play with him just a little bit and I decided to like him back. He then immediately messaged me back saying that he was sorry and all this other crap. Anyways, we start talking again more deeply than before, and I told him that he would have to win back my trust, to which he agreed. After about a week, he would always turn the conversation into the spicy direction, if you know what I mean. So I just knew he was full of it and he would ghost me again if given the chance. So I decided to give in and tell him to come over on Saturday. This was also during a heavy snow day and it was really cold outside. I told him to come to my apartment building at 1 o'clock in the morning because I don't want my roommates to be awake. Well, the day and time comes and he texts me that he's here. But you know what? Every 5 minutes he started texting me and I just kept leaving him on read since the app lets you know when someone has read your message. He tries calling on the app, but I ignore him. And it's here that I see him typing, so I immediately unmatch with him. After about 30 minutes, I look through my window and I see him practically running away since it was so cold outside. And it's great because I made him come over at 1 o'clock in the morning because I knew that no one would be coming into the apartment at that time just to let him in. He probably doesn't care and was using me anyways, but you know what? I'm happy I stood up for myself even just for a little bit. Oh man, I love this kind of energy. This is great. This guy literally wasted your time and came over and said, oh yeah, we're gonna have a relationship together. I'm gonna be a really good bounce back for you. And then this guy just disappears in a puff of smoke. It's like, dude, what's happening right now? You literally lied to the original poster. You just said, oh yeah, I'm gonna be there for you. We're gonna make a difference in your life. And it's like, okay, yeah, see you later, buddy. So I love this. I love that you made him go out in the snow at 1 o'clock in the morning. And I love the fact that he got a taste of his own medicine because based on what you're describing, it sounds like he needs a lot more of that. Am I the jerk for saying no to my best friend and her boyfriend in letting them come over to my family's farmhouse because I know for a fact they're only going to do the deed, if you know what I mean? Because right now this is all really weird and kind of gross and I just don't know if I'm in the wrong for saying no. Here's what happened. Okay, so let me start with a bit of context. My best friend has been dating this guy for like maybe a year now. We're all around the same age in our early 20s and we're all in university together. She lives with her parents and he lives in a dorm, so they don't have any privacy for spending time together, if you know what I mean. Now, this boyfriend is kind of an inconsiderate person. He's very emotionally distant, has no clear boundaries with his female friends, which makes my best friend very uncomfortable all the time. He also ghosts her, tries to break up randomly, then is extremely loving towards her all of a sudden. He is definitely very toxic. The thing is, she's so blinded that she can't even see how bad this really is. I tried talking to her, but it's of no use. Anyways, that's not the point. My family has a farmhouse 1 hour from the city. The boyfriend, who I'm not even close to, keeps insisting that I should call both of them over so that it's a small getaway for all the friends. But I clearly know that's not his intention because he jokingly keeps making comments like, oh, I haven't had any alone time with her and it's really making me frustrated. Like I know for a fact both of them just want to come over and do the deed. Now, since I stopped replying to his text messages, he makes my best friend text me repeatedly about coming there. I'm really uncomfortable with the fact that someone just wants to come over to my house to do it. So I say no and make up some excuse, but they cannot take no for an answer. I then ended up like going off on her saying, okay, just book a hotel if you're that desperate. You can't force me to have you come over. So now obviously things are really bad. But regardless, am I the jerk here for being honest with my friend and finally snapping? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, this is gross. This is really, really weird. First off, yeah, this boyfriend is a piece of garbage. Literally treating his girlfriend like crap and then trying to like come back and love bomb her. Like, no, that's not okay, dude. Also, if these people really want to hook up that bad, then yeah, get a hotel. Why would you bother the original poster and be like, yeah, we want to go to your farmhouse and do it? Like, bro, get a life, get a hotel. Why are you bothering them? So no, you're not the jerk for shutting them down, and hopefully your friend can see the truth about this guy because he is not a good person and it just seems very toxic. Am I the jerk for accidentally telling my parents about my sister's pregnancy simply because I was tired of keeping the secret? Because now my sister is pissed off at me because she wanted to tell them on her own terms. And now I really just don't know what to do. Here's how it happened. I'm a 24-year-old female and I have a younger sister who's 21 years old. We're not really close, but we're not enemies either. But I will say we always had a competitive sibling dynamic. About 2 months ago, she told me that she was pregnant. It wasn't planned and she was freaking out about how our parents would react. They're pretty traditional and can be pretty judgmental. She made me promise not to tell anyone. Like full on, you cannot say a word until I'm ready serious. And while I did agree, I was also very hesitant about it. She still lives at home and I visit my parents pretty often. My mom kept making comments to me about how my sister has been moody and gaining weight and asked if I knew what was going on. And every single time, I had to pretend that I didn't. And very quickly, I got really tired of keeping this up. I also felt weirdly left out of everything. She wouldn't update me much, but expected me to cover for her constantly. I was lying to keep her cover, but I had no idea what was going on, and I really just felt very used. Last weekend, my mom directly asked me if my sister was pregnant. I then hesitated, and I finally just gave in. I said to her, I think you should talk to her yourself, which obviously confirmed that yeah, she is pregnant. My mom then confronted her immediately, which turned into a huge blow-up fight. My sister is furious and says I betrayed her, and apparently I stole the chance for her to tell them on her own terms. But I told her I didn't outright say she was pregnant, I just didn't deny it. And honestly, I was tired of carrying the secret around my parents. She says I made it about me because I'm uncomfortable for a few weeks, while she's been dealing with something life-changing, and now she won't answer any of my text messages. Part of me feels guilty because I did promise not to say anything, but another part of me feels like I shouldn't have been put in that position in the first place. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because I don't know what to do anymore. Okay, I think your sister's being very obnoxious here. Like if this was a secret that wasn't physically changing your sister's body, then sure, you can probably keep the secret and be like, whatever, I don't care that much. But let's be honest, the mom's already like kind of suspecting that something's going on. She's had kids, she knows what's up. So whether or not you said anything is not gonna like make or break the fact that the mom was probably gonna talk to your sister anyways. So in my opinion, I think your sister is an idiot for not saying something sooner. This has absolutely nothing to do with you, because you definitely did not spill the beans. You didn't say anything, because I guarantee you your mom knew the entire time and she was just trying to like find a reason to talk about it. So no, I don't think you're the jerk, and I think your sister is an idiot for the way she went about handling this, because this whole process could have been like 100% easier. My coworker literally tries to take my man from me and also get me fired. So I decided to get some petty revenge on her in ways that she simply could not avoid. And with all things considered, I'm honestly really satisfied by this, and I don't regret it for a second. Here's what I did. Okay, so this happened a while back in my old job. I worked at a certain game store for almost 7 years, and boy do I have some stories. Now this particular story involved a coworker who got transferred to my store 1 year. She was particularly flirty with pretty much every male customer. One day, the guy I just started seeing, who I'm now engaged to, came into the store to bring me dinner. Well, they locked on immediately, and I plainly stated that he was there for me and to please leave him alone. But guess what? She didn't do that. She hit on him right in front of me. But in response to that, he called her a marshmallow neck and walked away. She tweaked out over that forever, went off on me for it, and then proceeded to try and steal him from me for months and get me fired, which is right about the time when my revenge starts to take shape. The store manager told us he was getting a shipment in with some free goodies in it, and there was one particular item in there that he didn't care for and someone could have it. Well, when the manager said that, she absolutely claimed it. But guess what? I was the one that processed that box coming in, and I decided to take it. I didn't even want it. I just took it so she couldn't have it and pretended not to know what happened. I also took snacks that she'd left in the background off shelves and left them on the floor for critters if I was closing and knew I was opening the next day alone. I put it back where I found it each morning, and I told her mice jump. I also told her multiple boyfriends who would come in about each other. I also once dropped a pizza in the back room, got it back into the box, flipped the box, and made it messy so it looked like I dropped the box upside down, then told her and the store manager I got pizza for us and let them eat the whole thing. Oh, and did I mention that I also didn't like the store manager either? Eventually, both of them got moved from my store and fired at different points. And honestly, if you think about it, it makes complete sense. Yeah, if someone started hitting on my girlfriend, I probably would be very pissed off as well, especially when you make it very clear that, dude, you cannot get near my girlfriend. She is not up for grabs. Don't sit there and hit on her. That is absolutely not okay. So for this lady to try that with your boyfriend, honestly, at that point, the gloves are off, which marks your revenge and the subsequent things you did to her completely justified in my opinion, because she had no business acting the way that she did. My manager is a mean girl through and through, as she's treating me like garbage at this new place that I'm working at. But even though I've talked to my general manager and I've talked to literally everybody I can, nothing has changed, and I'm still being met with so much hostility every day at work. And at this point, I really just don't know what to do anymore. Here's what's going on. I want to start off by saying that I've never worked somewhere like this. It's a very high-end steakhouse, and I've always been a bartender, and I've always worked in dives or beer gardens. I was open and honest, and there's a huge learning curve, which I've accepted. Now, to put it bluntly, there's just this one lead who is absolutely awful towards me, disrespectful, treats me like I'm just plain stupid and dumb, and overall just really mean. It seemed like it was only towards me until I started talking to the servers who had started just before me, so basically the newest people before me. They say the same thing, and honestly, some have said it seems racial, and unfortunately, I kind of have to agree with them. For reference, I'm black, and the second newest guy is black, and she picks on the longest standing server who, surprisingly enough, is also black. At first, it was like the whole treating me like I'm stupid thing, but eventually it's just divulged into them just being mean, talking to me the way that no one should be talked to. For example, a large party has an addition that isn't there yet. They tell me about this, and I go and tell her, and she walks to a computer just to follow to clarify, and then says to me, "You don't have to stand there, go do something." For reference, I'm with a larger party with 80 plus people, and I'm going to run drinks, and I've got menus shoved at me, and I'm just told, "Take these," as she runs away. Genuinely, just really mean girl, mean person things. And right now, I'm fed up with it. I've talked to the other lead and the general manager, and nothing has changed. It feels so targeted, and it's giving me imposter syndrome because I know this is new to me, but I'm constantly being affirmed and being told I'm doing good. She just sets out to make me feel small, and honestly, I don't know what to do about this. Okay, honestly, if you literally have gone to the general manager and you've talked to pretty much everybody you could talk to and still nothing's changing, then at that point, I'm absolutely looking for another job. I would start interviewing pretty much anywhere to get away from that place. As someone who's worked that kind of job and dealt with that for several years, I'm telling you right now, you will absolutely be happier anywhere else. I don't care if it's a pay cut, dude. You need to work somewhere where you're appreciated and respected. And if neither one of those things are happening, then holy crap, get out while you can. It is not worth being treated like crap crap. Like seriously, your self-worth is worth so much more than that. There's also the possibility of you just talking to this person and being like, hey, you're really rude to me and I need you to stop. Like sometimes that goes a long way, but obviously you know the details of this way more than I do. So if that's not a good fit for the situation, then obviously don't do it. But who knows, like maybe there's some kind of solution here where you get to have like a good working environment and she understands where you're coming from and starts to act right. Because she's being blatantly unprofessional and that is not fair for you in the slightest. My dad showed up to my job and tried to tell my manager how to schedule me. And honestly, I've never been more embarrassed in my life, and I really just hate the fact that this happened. Here's how it all went down. I'm 22 years old, and I've been working at the same outdoor sports store for almost 2 years now. I genuinely love my job. My coworkers are great, and my manager gives me a lot of flexibility because I've been proven to be reliable. Well, last Friday, I was in the middle of helping a customer when one of my coworkers came up to me looking kind of uncomfortable. They said to me, hey, there's a guy at the front asking for the manager, and he says that he's your dad. My stomach dropped immediately. I walked over, and sure enough, my dad was standing there at the entrance in his jacket, completely calm like he had every right to be there, and my manager was already next to him looking confused. Apparently, my dad had decided on his own that my current Thursday and Friday closing shifts were too late for someone my age, and he came in to personally suggest that I get moved to earlier shifts. For reference, he's 56 years old and I'm 22. He had an actual conversation going on with my manager about my schedule before I even got there. My manager is a pretty easygoing guy, but even he looked like he totally didn't know what to do with the situation. I pulled my dad aside and I quietly told him that this was incredibly embarrassing and that he needed to leave. He then looked genuinely surprised and said that he was just looking out for me and that he knows how tiring night shifts can be. He wasn't rude to anyone, which I think is why he thought the whole thing was fine. But my manager pulled me aside afterwards and asked, not in a mean way, if everything was okay at home and whether or not my dad does this often. And when they said this, I wanted to disappear into the floor. I called my dad that evening and explained very clearly that my workplace is not a place he can show up to and have conversations about my life on my behalf. He then said that I was overreacting and that he didn't see the big deal since nothing bad happened. Now, I love my dad and I know he means well, but his complete inability to see why this was a problem is what gets me every single time. My manager was cool about it, thankfully, but I was anxious for the rest of my shift. And at this point, I really just don't know how to move forward. Okay, I've got to be honest with you. If any of my parents showed up like this at one of my jobs and was talking to my manager saying, oh, you need to change his schedule right now, I don't want him working that late, I would lose my mind. I would go nuts on them. Like that is a serious line they're crossing, and they've got a lot of guts to even try that in the first place. It's like, dude, the original poster's 22 years old. I'm pretty sure they know how to handle their schedule, and I'm pretty sure they know way more about night shifts than you do. Chances are this guy hasn't done a night shift in like 20 years. So yeah, this would truly piss me off, like beyond description. But overall, I think you handled this really well considering the fact that your dad was being a complete nuisance. An entitled old woman tells me I'm not allowed to stand outside my own apartment, demanding that I get out of the way and move on and stop bothering people. So I decided to put her in her place in a way she definitely will not forget, as I completely humiliated this entitled Karen right in front of my friends. Here's how I did it. So I live in a small apartment complex that only has 4 units, but from the outside, you wouldn't really expect it to be apartments. I had my friends over one Saturday afternoon, and we did the usual thing a man in their 20s would do, which is watch football. At halftime, we all go down to have a cigarette, and it's raining, so we just stood in the doorway of the flats to keep out of the rain. Which, by the way, everyone else who lives there does the exact same thing. It's a busy town center. There's lots of people that are walking past, doing shopping, etc. And we all just stood there talking about the football game, laughing and joking and having a good old time. Well, that is until an old lady comes over who's probably in her 70s and is clearly visibly annoyed by something. She then tells us rather rudely and abruptly, "You need to move away from that doorway." Now, when she said this, I was obviously taken aback. I then asked her why, and she says to me, "I don't need to tell you why. I'm telling you to move away from the building and stop messing around outside the open door." So at this point, I try to explain to her why we are there, but she just abruptly interrupts me and says, "You need to move on or I will get security. They will get you out of here. You can't just stand in a doorway that isn't yours and interrupt people's business." Now, what I did next was a stroke of genius, and this had my two friends absolutely howling with laughter. I closed the door and I said, "Yeah, I hate when people interrupt people's business," all while simultaneously pulling out my keys keys and opening the door again. I then look at her right in her eyes and I say, "Oh wait, I'm not allowed to be here? Or should you go and find the security guard still?" My friends are laughing at the whole situation and the old lady just says nothing, not an apology or anything, and just ends up walking away. A few weeks later, I heard the same old lady shouting at this lovely homeless lady about the same thing, who sits outside of our flats and has permission to sit there just to get out of the rain. So I decided to go down, and this time I shouted at her, telling her to mind her own business and that the homeless lady has permission to be there and that she's the only person who isn't wanted here. Now, the police eventually came over as someone else reported her for shouting and swearing and told her that she needs to leave. Now, once again, she didn't apologize for her behavior and instead she walked away defeated. I eventually come to find out from the police that she's an alcoholic who does this kind of thing all the time, getting annoying and shouting at people like she owns the town center. So hopefully this is a lesson she won't soon forget anytime soon. Man, this is infuriating, dude. Like, what happened to just minding your own business? Since when do people have the right to, like, police what other people do? If it's raining outside and I'm trying to find a place to stand that's not gonna get me soaking wet, I don't care if I live at this place or not. I'm gonna stand under this awning or, like, in this doorway and at least wait for the rain to stop. But the fact that this lady was trying to be like, "Oh, you need to move, you don't belong here," despite the fact that this guy literally lives in the building, it honestly is baffling to me and just so stupid and annoying. Like, I'm glad you got your chance to yell at this lady and tell her to get lost, because people like this have no business treating others like crap or trying to boss anybody else around. So yeah, I think you did good, and I think that lady absolutely deserved to get shut down. My idiotic entitled boss demands that I train my replacement, which just so happens to be his nephew, as he plans on firing me in 6 months. So I decide to get some revenge by literally not training this guy at all, resulting in this nephew nearly burning down the hotel that I help manage. Here's what happened. Okay, so my first job out of high school was doing the landscaping for a posh hotel near my hometown. I loved the job and the work was often demanding but rewarding nonetheless. After working there for a few years, the hotel was sold to a businessman as the owner wanted to retire to Florida. The new owner had a gambling addiction and a drinking problem. He constantly drained funds from his businesses to support his vices, which really showed in how quickly the hotel went from posh to the literal definition of a roach motel. I continued doing my job faithfully despite the rapid downturn in overall appearance. My paychecks were still nice, and I didn't feel as many effects of the downtown as other departments. About 6 months into the new ownership, the owner introduces me to his nephew and says that he wants me to train him to do my job so that I don't have to spend all day doing the landscaping for the property. Well, the nephew at the time seemed more concerned with playing Pokemon on his Game Boy than working, and even when I set him to a simple task, like raking leaves or watering flowers, I would often find him playing his Game Boy somewhere, or sitting in the lounge drinking with his uncle. I constantly complained about him to the owner, and I told him that I had enough seniority in my position to search for and train a more suitable person to do the job. That's when the owner dropped the bombshell. His nephew was going to replace me in 6 months. He was only paying his nephew minimum wage, whereas I was getting nearly 3 times as much because of my seniority and how much the original owner loved me. At this point, I realized that I was too expensive for him and he wanted to have more money available for his habits. I then immediately started looking for a new job. I continued working at the hotel, but I didn't put much effort into it. I showed the lazy nephew some basic stuff, but I pretty much left him to his own devices for the rest of the day. By the time I was asked to leave, the amount of neglect was overwhelmingly apparent. Poison ivy was growing around the entrances, and the normally well-manicured lawns looked like overgrown meadows. 6 months after I left, there was a massive fire in the middle garden because the nephew somehow thought the most effective way to get rid of the poison ivy and the weeds in the mulch was to douse it in gasoline and light it aflame. He was stood nearby with a garden hose to put it out, but was swiftly overwhelmed as dry leaves and other material quickly spread the flames into the hotel itself. The fire department was called, the hotel was evacuated, and the nephew was arrested for arson despite trying to convince everyone that he fully intended to put the fire out with a garden hose after he got the desired effect. The owner was forced to sell the hotel and restaurant on the property to a franchise. He was eventually audited by the IRS and arrested for tax fraud. Today, the property is bustling again. The restaurant was bought by a Mexican restaurant franchise and does decent business. The 2 side blocks of rooms that were damaged in the fire were torn down and turned into an outdoor banquet area for the Mexican restaurant. The main hotel has bounced back after this idiot owner was replaced, and the entire property barely resembles what it looked like when I worked there. for. But with all things considered, this guy deserves it because he was a nightmare to work for. I love the story so much because, like, seriously, anytime someone's gonna be like, yeah, you need to train your replacement, that's the second I'm gonna look for another job and not do anything else until then. Seriously, that was a stupid move by the owner because he literally gave this guy a license to say, okay, I'm gonna find another job and show you the bare minimum. And from the sounds of it, the nephew's a complete moron. This guy used gasoline and fire to get rid of the weeds. And I'm sure there's someone out there who can probably do that safely, but this guy did not know what he was doing. This nephew's a complete idiot. The fact that the fire didn't spread further is like a miracle in and of itself. So truly, good for you for getting revenge in a roundabout way, because this guy's an idiot for saying he's gonna replace you. And the fact that he went to jail for tax fraud is hilarious in my opinion, because it shows exactly the kind of person that you were working for. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled jerk parked next to me kept hitting their car door into my car, so I decided to return the favor by waiting until they left and doing the exact same thing on the other side of their car. Here's what happened. Okay, so I was parked in a student parking structure and I was stuck on a phone call before heading out. There was an SUV that pulled in next to me, and for a few minutes, one of the girls had her door open while she was looking through the back seat. Well, the door kept banging into my car, and I look over and I see that she wasn't paying attention. When all was said and done, her other friend came out of the other side of the car, and they both ended up leaving. Now, I noticed the friend pointing out that her door was hitting my car, and that's when she looked and saw me sitting in the car. I shook my head at her after seeing that she was chuckling at the situation, but I didn't say anything because I was still on the phone. Now, they were long gone by the time I finished my call, so I pulled my car to park on the other side of her car, and then I proceeded to slam my door into hers repeatedly, all the way until some dents started caving in. Now, my car's super old, so it's no biggie, but just because it's old doesn't mean people should be careless jerks about it. Anyways, it went fine, and I felt a lot better about the situation overall. Oh man, I think the fact that she laughed at you after knowing that you were in the car, like that would have set me off, and I can't say I wouldn't do the exact same thing that you did. So good for you for getting this revenge, because honestly, it sounded like these people absolutely deserved it. My entitled sister didn't buy winter clothing for her kids, forcing me and my family to step up so that they wouldn't freeze. Here's what happened. Okay, just to preface, my ex-brother-in-law did take the kids away from my sister. She is a narcissist, a master manipulator, and probably would have had no problem lying in court to get her way, were it not for the potential evidence against her being so overwhelmingly bad. Her ex took the kids and didn't bring them back once he was positive that she couldn't do anything about it, and soon the court gave him majority custody. My sister only gets to see her kids about 2 days a month and on some holidays. Now, this particular incident goes back to the winter of 2023, before my sister was evicted from the family property. At that time, her boyfriend had recently died in a car accident that quite possibly wasn't an accident. Technically, she had just broken up with a guy because he had cheated on her, and repeatedly cried to me that she's not a cheater herself, which is an outright lie, as she had 3 affairs that we know of while still married to her ex-husband. And how she still thinks this, I honestly just don't know. But by that time, she was barely home 2 nights a week. My parents and I were the only ones taking care of and paying to feed her kids because she wasn't coming home to feed them. She would call her kids and ask them what they wanted for dinner and then wouldn't even show up. Our mother then got mad at her and over text message told her that she was abandoning her children. And my sister's verbatim answer back was to say, "Oh my gosh, no I didn't." She never grew out of her teenage mentality. Even after having 3 kids and her husband joining the military to better support them, she was still acting like a teenager. My mother and I got in touch with my ex-brother-in-law to tell him everything because my sister had her kids so brainwashed that they didn't tell him much until he made them tell him everything. And any good clothing my nephews had, they would only keep at their father's house because they didn't want them torn up by the dogs or smelling like dog feces. I then found out my nephews had no winter clothing at my sister's trailer because my nephew woke me up on an early November in the morning to ask for a ride to school because he had missed the bus. And he was at my door in 39 degrees shivering in nothing but a t-shirt and shorts, and his shoes were falling apart. I asked him where his coat was, and he said that he didn't have one anymore. While I was driving him to school, I told him I was going to buy him a coat. And he literally said to me, "Well, I'm not that cold." But I said to him, "Dude, I'm looking at you shivering right now." I mean, his shoes were so bad, he could barely walk in them. He had to do this limp forward moonwalk shuffle because the bottoms of his shoes were coming apart. I superglued them back together that night, and the next day I went out and I bought him a coat at a thrift store, and he was wearing it to school right away. Then on the weekend, I took him out clothing shopping and practically bought him a whole new wardrobe. He didn't even have decent socks. He was having to use his socks from his brothers and even his mother. I bought him socks, then I took him to a certain thrift store with great prices, and I bought him a pair of good black sneakers, 2 2 or 3 long sleeve shirts, 2 sweatshirts, 3 pairs of pants because he had nothing but summer shorts, while also buying him a pair of gloves and a knit cap. We rushed everything into the washing machine and he was wearing that stuff to school that Monday. The following weekend, I took my middle nephew out and bought him some new socks too, as well as about the same amount of thrift store clothing. He even still wears the green hoodie I got for him back then. I bought him several pairs of pants, several shirts and sweatshirts, and a big thick coat, which he really liked. And he was wearing that stuff as soon as possible. The only thing he didn't need was shoes. I'm on a fixed income and this was not very long before Thanksgiving and Christmas, but I spent about $200 on clothing for those kids because they needed it. My eldest nephew was already living with his dad full time, so he was fine. I also lent my youngest nephew a timber range camping cot just so he would have a decent bed. His tiny room in the trailer had a couch bed previously, but moisture and dogs just destroyed it. I also bought the kid a sleeping bag because he wasn't sleeping well due to the cot being cold on the underside. I ended up getting blankets and pillows for both of those kids, and after my sister was evicted, we cleaned out the trailer and found out that she had not only had a brand new sleeping bag in storage, but she also had a hoard of unused blankets hidden under her bed. And my God, we were so mad at her. She let the kids be cold when she had that stuff the whole time. The summer of 2023, all 3 of my nephews were allowed to live around the yard in tents, which they found preferable to living in the trailer with their mom, her boyfriend, and the stinky dogs. I ran power cords from my house to all 3 of their tents, and I got all 3 of those kids fans and ice coolers, and lent 2 of them camping cots to sleep on. I also let the eldest stay in my camper trailer from time to time. When telling people this stuff, the first words out of their mouths are usually to say, well, you're a good uncle. Meanwhile, my sister was busy drinking, partying, and doing all kinds of substances, and fighting with her piece of garbage boyfriend, and making trouble for all of us. We worked in secret with my ex-brother-in-law to make sure those kids were safe, and he ended up taking them that December. Then he took my sister back to court, and before anyone points it out, my parents and I were very remorseful for not taking action sooner, but my sister had us all mentally beat down. She's a chronic manipulator that makes up stuff and then spreads lies. She had people all over the area believing the stuff she said about our parents. My parents couldn't go to the local restaurant without getting side glances from people. But after we kicked out my sister, all of that stopped. She was poisoning everyone against our parents. So it's crazy how she wonders why we had enough of her and literally want nothing to do with her in the slightest. Wow, she really was a terrible mom, and I'm so glad those kids are away from her. Seriously, who in their right mind would be like, yeah, let me let my kids go cold this winter? That's a good idea. By the way, all these blankets are mine. It's like, dude, what are you doing? You are an awful parent. Like, you don't deserve to have kids. So good for you and your family for stepping up, because this sounds like a nightmare. And hopefully you don't have to deal with her in that capacity ever again. An entitled pastor that I used to work for made fun of a disabled girl who was checking us out for our groceries, causing me to lose all respect for them in a way that I truly never expected. Here's what happened. Back in the 90s, I took a summer job at a church that my grandparents attended, and my family would occasionally attend as well. I was 16 years old at the time, and I did consider becoming a pastor after high school. The church I worked at was run by a husband and wife pastor team. Both seemed nice and welcoming and would answer a lot of my questions regarding college divinity programs, degrees, internships, etc. This couple had replaced the founding pastors who had passed away 5 or 6 years before. The founding pastor had a house built next to the church for pastor housing, and yes, this will come into play later on. Like many other churches, they hosted a once-a-week vacation Bible school. After the second day of Bible school, the female pastor saw that some of the snacks and beverage supplies were running low, so she asked me to go with her to the grocery store to resupply. Now, the grocery store we went to was known to hire adults with intellectual disabilities as baggers, so the female pastor and I got what was needed and got in line. It was a busy day, and there were 2 customers ahead of us in line. The bagger, who had an intellectual disability, was chatting with customers and the cashier. She had a speech impediment, and the female pastor laughed at how she was talking and turned to me and said, "Those people shouldn't be working here and are just a nuisance." Well, at that moment, I lost all respect for the female pastor. I didn't say anything, and yes, I really regret it. The rest of the vacation Bible school went well, and I worked 2 more weeks, and then summer break was done. By the next summer, I took a job at a local hardware and lumber store. The owner, who's a guy with a daughter with Down syndrome, would give discounts to churches, homeless shelters, and other nonprofits. Well, the husband and wife pastor had contacted the store regarding lumber and other materials to rebuild a bathroom in the pastor's house. The store owner knew that I had previously worked at that church, as I had listed them as a reference. The store owner mentions that the couple would be coming in later to look at pricing for materials, and the store owner's daughter would sometimes help out at the store or just hang out. So I make the decision. I tell the store owner about the female pastor's awful comments about the grocery store employee from a year before, and trust me, he wasn't happy. He said he would still do business with them, but he would not be giving given them a discount. And you know what? I always took pleasure in knowing that the female pastor's awful attitude prevented her from getting a discount. Wow, you would imagine someone who calls themselves a pastor, like, you know, a religious leader for a faith, would have some semblance of like love and compassion for everybody regardless of if they're different or not. Like seriously, why would they say something like that and be like, oh, they're such a nuisance? It's like, no, hypocrites like you are a nuisance. So good for you for speaking up and saying something about this, because those people suck and they absolutely do not deserve to ever get a discount. Am I the jerk for telling my brother-in-law to stop picking on my kids or he's not coming on vacation? Because right now I'm worried that I may have caused some weird drama in the family, and at this point I am seriously not sure what to do. Here's what happened. To start things off, I have 3 kids. I have a 16-year-old son that we will call Rob, a 14-year-old daughter who we will call Lisa, and a 9-year-old daughter who we will call Anne. Lisa is autistic and her special interest is Taylor Swift, and Rob and Anne just go along with it and indulge her. They're good kids who care and support each other, and yes, Rob and Anne also get attention and support for their interests too. Now, my brother-in-law, who we will call Hector, literally has a personality where he's always trying to rile people up. You know, the whole thing where they're like, oh, it's just a joke, bro. Like super childish, but whatever, he's family, right? Except my husband is out of the country, so I guess he thinks that he gets to do whatever he wants. A few weeks ago, he started needling at Lisa by making fun of Taylor Swift, using lots of childish name-calling words, intentionally using the wrong word for fans and stuff, and just really immature kid stuff. Lisa knows that not everyone likes Taylor Swift, and some people even hate her. In fact, one of her best friends hates her. She's not unable to hear different opinions. She has her own, and I'm sure she would love to share them with you if you had 4 hours to spare. He would say, well, Swifters do all these awful things. And she would respond by saying, Uncle Hector, it's Swifties. And he would just say it again to needle her some more. Now, I was not in the room when this happened, but Rob was. Rob said to him, why do you keep using the wrong word? She told you the right word. Hector then said he can say whatever he wants and that they should just cry about it. Rob then said to him, it seems like you're going out of your way just to upset Lisa. Rob eventually asked her to finish what she was talking about and just to ignore Hector. And this is when I came into the room and Hector waved at the kids and said, Roberta's getting real mad that someone's joking about mother. Now, I wasn't in the room, so I didn't hear the comment about me, and Rob said that I wouldn't get it. Before I could say anything, Rob said, bro, did you really just call me a girl's name? What are you, like 12 years old? I then put my hands up and I said, okay, enough. Hector, just stop. He said I'm raising soft kids who can't take a joke, but then I said that he's being so rude and that he wouldn't be acting like this if my husband was home. I said if he wants to still go with us to Colorado in the summer, you know, like we're planning to do, then he has to stop now or he's not coming. Well, this is what set him off, and he said I had no right to do that, even though yes, I absolutely do, and that I'm being a controlling yak over Taylor Swift. I said, no, I don't care about Taylor Swift. This is about you being mean to your niece because her dad isn't home. He said, well, F you and good luck next time you have a problem. You're on your own. He then took his Costco chicken and left, and I swear he must have immediately gone running to my mother-in-law because she called me to ask for what really happened and just sighed a lot. I asked her if I was overreacting, and she said she hopes that we can work it out because that trip was all that he had to look forward to since he was laid off from work. I hate causing drama in the family, so am I the jerk and out of line for what I said? Because seriously, I don't know what to do. Okay, you need to take a step back and realize that you did not cause this drama. Hector is literally the reason any of this went wrong, and no one can convince me otherwise. Like seriously, this is so annoying. He starts all this drama and treats everybody like crap. He acts super childish and is just really obnoxious all the time, and then has the audacity to be like, oh my god, wait a second. There are consequences for my actions? What do you mean? If this was me, there's no way he would ever go to Colorado with my family, and I would tell him, listen, you're gonna have to like stay home. This is not gonna work out. Because Rob has it 100% correct. He was only acting that way to try and get a rise out of Lisa, and the fact that he was doing that is so toxic. There's no reason for that. Like literally, leave the kid alone. She's a 14-year-old girl. She's allowed to like Taylor Swift for God's sakes. So in my opinion, no, you're definitely not the jerk, but also I think your brother-in-law has no right to ever go to Colorado with you guys, because his behavior, both past and present, in my opinion, is absolutely unacceptable, and that is not something that you should put up with in the slightest. My girlfriend told me she went to dinner with a male coworker, ended up getting hammered, and slept at his house, and now I'm at a point where I'm not sure if I need to talk to her about this, or if there's other options that might be available. Here's what happened. Okay, so me and my girlfriend have been together for about a year and a half, and things have been pretty great. And for reference, we've lived together for about a year, as she moved to my state after some long distance. Now, to start things out, we've had our issues recently, and these issues have been putting stress on the relationship. Recently, she got a new job and decided to take a break between jobs and go home and visit family and workmates that lived about an hour from her home. Her main reason for going into the city was to see her coworker, who's another female, that she wanted to stay with for a night or two. She also mentioned another male coworker wanted to take her out for dinner and celebrate her leaving the company. Now, I didn't have much time to react and ask her about it, as it was kind of just brushed off, even though I didn't think much of it as I did trust her. The day she left the city from her hometown where she was staying was also the night she was supposed to be going out for dinner with a male coworker. She went radio silent from the time she left for the city. I texted her at 2:00 p.m. just asking her how the drive was, and I got no response. Another message was sent at 9 o'clock with no response, and another at 11:30, and eventually I just fell asleep. Now, in the morning, I was expecting a message, but still, I didn't get anything. And by the way, this is a woman who has hounded me in the past for not texting and checking up on her enough. Anyways, I texted her at midday, and she said she had just woke up, she had a wild night, she did substances and had alcohol, which is pretty rare for her these days, and had been throwing up all morning. Now, I was quite annoyed and worried that I hadn't received any update from her until now, and told her I would call her after work to talk about her night. Well, after that message, I did something that I am a little ashamed of. I turned on her cell phone that she didn't wipe and tracked her location. She was not in the hotel, but outside the city, a little in the suburbs. I then opened up her messages to this coworker and found messages between the two of them. He told her to come to his place and start drinking there, and then go out to some bars later. The messages seemed very innocent and not something I'd even consider flirting. I checked her location throughout the day, and she never left until I messaged her below. I then messaged her after work, and she told me that she went to a hospital as she had been vomiting all day and snapped me some proof. I then called her after she recovered slightly, and I talked to her about her night. But she really just fast forward through the story and was upfront about everything. Told me she went to his house for drinks at around 4, where he then invited another girl over to party with them. They went out to bars, did some substances, and they all ended up back at his place, where she told me she passed out in his bed at 4 o'clock, while the other two continued to party until 6 o'clock in the morning. She even told me that he slept on the couch, even though I didn't ask. What bugs me about this is when I asked her when she got back to the hotel, knowing she's been at his place recovering all day until about 5 o'clock p.m. before she got to the hospital, she told me she got back at the hotel at midday and took an Uber to the hospital, although he most likely just took her there. There's not much else to the story, and she hasn't really elaborated on the night out, besides the fact that they danced and played games at his house, all with other friends that she didn't know. So at this point, I'm not sure how to approach this situation. Do I start questioning and raising my concerns about how she went out drinking with a coworker and then slept at his place after a night out when she told me it was just dinner? Or do I also call her out on her lies and tell her I know where she was? I will end with this. My girlfriend is a very sociable person and generally keeps relationships with her ex-boyfriends, which I have no issue with. But I honestly found this situation a little concerning, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Oh man, I don't blame you at all for being really freaked out by this, because honestly, this sounds really sketchy. So no, you would not be in the wrong for trying to talk to your girlfriend about this, because what you're describing, in my opinion, sounds incredibly weird. My girlfriend told me that her family was in a serious accident, but when I checked up on them, absolutely nothing seemed to be wrong, and they all seemed to be completely fine. And now I'm convinced that my girlfriend lied to me for no reason the entire time. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 22-year-old male, and I've been in a relationship with my girlfriend who's 23 for about 3 years and 8 months now. For most of that time, we've had a strong and healthy relationship. We've supported each other, communicated well, and spent a lot of time together. Recently, I started a new job, so I've been a bit busier, but we still make time to meet every day, talk on video calls, and stay close. Earlier in our relationship, she told me she had a heart condition related to her vagus nerve. It never really affected our day-to-day lives, but I've always tried to be understanding and supportive whenever it came up. About a month ago, she mentioned feeling unwell, and she said her heart was racing, but afterwards she seemed fine and life went on. Things started to shift about a week ago when she told me and some of our mutual friends that both her father and grandfather had been in a serious road accident. According to her, they live in a mountainous rural area and had to be taken to a hospital 4 hours away. She even said that one ambulance got stuck in a landslide. Her father was reported to have developed blood clots, and her grandfather was in critical condition, eventually being transferred to the largest hospital in our state. Throughout all of this, she stayed at our shared flat, saying she was managing everything through phone calls. Then she told us that her grandfather had flatlined at the hospital but was revived. And later, she said her father was being moved to the same hospital in critical condition. The next night, she claimed her father's ambulance had been in another accident and had to be redirected back to the regional hospital. And this is when I started noticing inconsistencies. She was telling us that she had been in constant contact with her family, her mother, brother, and doctors, but when I saw a missed call from her flatmate and briefly checked her call log, there were no signs of her calling or receiving calls from them. This really confused me, because I had heard her supposedly talking to them in the room. I didn't want to to jump to conclusions or accuse her of anything, so my friend and I decided to call her family directly, just out of concern more than anything else. Well, wouldn't you guess it, her father answered and sounded completely normal. He said that no one had been in any accident or hospitalized. He also called her brother and he confirmed the same thing. But even after this, the following day she told us her father had flatlined and was revived 20 minutes later. I'm at a complete loss right now. I care deeply about her and I want to believe there's an explanation, but at the same time, I'm feeling confused, hurt, and unsure of how to process everything I've been told. I also worry that this could be a sign of something deeper going on emotionally or mentally. So here's my question. How do I bring this up with her in a way that's honest but gentle? I don't want to accuse or corner her, but I do need to talk about what I've learned and how I'm feeling. Has anyone been in a similar situation, or has any advice for how to approach this with care? What should I do? Oh man, this is super sketchy. Seriously, this is a big red flag in my opinion, and I would not ignore this. You mean to tell me your girlfriend has been lying about her father and grandfather nearly dying over and over again, and is not at all explaining what's actually happening? Like, good lord, that's so weird. There's no excuse for that. Like, even her looking for attention is a weird excuse in and of itself. And for me, that just doesn't stand on its own 2 feet. It doesn't make any sense, and there really is not a good explanation for that. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would literally say to her, look, I spoke to your father and he's fine. Can you please explain yourself, because this is so weird? And in my opinion, if I was in this relationship, there is no way I would ever take this lightly. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My former stepmother is one of the worst people that I've ever known, and now she has slowly turned up back in my life in a way that honestly I never expected. Here's what happened. I first met my former stepmother, who we will call Crystal for the sake of the story, when I was about 7 years old, and we didn't realize she was entitled until much later. At first, she was really nice, and my dad liked her for her kind personality, as well as, at the time, her deep faith. When they got married for the first few years, everything was wonderful, and I really got along with my older stepsister. But it wasn't until after she broke her leg that I started to see her entitled side. She was so demanding of us kids to do stuff which, at the time, us kids didn't know how to do. I was about 11 years old being asked to make dinner, and all I knew how to cook at the time was eggs. My dad had put a stop to a lot of it, but she would lay it on thick to him, saying that we should be doing this stuff because her leg was broken, even though it didn't prevent her from getting up to go smoke or grab another beer. It built up over the years until finally my dad had had enough with one incident that probably could be its own story in and of itself. They ended up getting divorced, and my youngest brother is in split custody due to the state that we live in, with my dad having the primary custody. Well, it turns out she was addicted to all sorts of substances, both legal and illegal, and still thinks that she's entitled to us kids even though I'm an adult now. Now, onto the event itself, I got an email from a site people use to look up offenders in your area, if you know what I mean. And specifically, the email was addressed to Crystal. It had her address in it, which I never lived at, as well as her name and phone number, but it was my email. I searched through my email to find out if this was a one-off fluke, but it wasn't. I have about 4 emails for sites that she signed up to using my email address. Now, I saved the emails if I decided to go legal with it, but I decided to be petty and change the passwords on the accounts before deleting them. I honestly don't know when or how she got my email, but I am not the little girl that she could bully around anymore. Yeah, I can't stand like former family members or like people who are like absolutely estranged in the family, who then feel like they have some kind of ownership over you, even though clearly they're not a good person and they're obviously just trying to like use you in some kind of way. And in this case, it's like, oh yeah, you're trying to use my email address, like get lost, lady. So hopefully this ends sooner than later, because from the sounds of it, your stepmother does not sound like a good person. My friend's fiance, as well as my friend group at large, were very rude to my new girlfriend in a way that is truly costing me all of my friendships, because at this point I'm very frustrated and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of backstory, my friends and I had just all moved out and lived in the city just before COVID hit. A buddy of mine matched with a girl on Bumble, and she brought some friends around, and very quickly we became one of those friend groups that dated each other. Now, I was one of the single guys because I didn't want to date within my own friend group. My friend dated this guy for a long time. She seemed cool, but definitely had some of her own issues with maturity and jealousy and other things. And a few summers later, she set me up with a friend of hers. Long story short, after a month, I knew I didn't want to date her, as we were just not compatible for one another. She took it to heart when it wasn't personal, and she really wreaked havoc on me the entire summer, including telling my friends any secrets that I had, lies about my body, personal details about my family. I mean, you name it, she said it. It ended sour, but I eventually moved on, except for the woman I briefly dated and my friend's fiance. Although we remained civil, everyone could tell that there was tension, and it caused me to feel alienated with my own friends. And my friend later got engaged to the original Bumble match. Fast forward to this summer and I met someone through my local running club, and pretty quickly we hit it off, and we've been dating ever since then. We've been together for 10 months now, and it's been the healthiest relationship I've ever been in. Unfortunately, I got invited to my friend's birthday party in January, and his fiance had my past fling with her. The entire time my girlfriend and I were there, they were passive-aggressive towards me and my girlfriend, and were acting pretty rude by not saying anything to me or her. Now, what hit the hardest was that my friends didn't bother to say anything to us either, because if her fiance's unhappy, then everyone's unhappy. Just before midnight, I left to go back to my apartment with my girlfriend, who was upset. I found out the next day after telling a friend who wasn't there that they were sort of rude for not saying anything, talking to her, and basically pretending in a way that she wasn't there and neither was I. Well, their response was to say, "That's insane. They told me you didn't properly introduce her to every person." And this really made me furious. For people who are my friends, it seems like my friend's fiance made that as an excuse to being rude, especially when I approached them saying her name and that she was my girlfriend, especially when some of them have already met her before and she sat there for almost 4 hours being ignored. I have friends outside of this group, but when I told them this story, they all told me how awful they sound, how rude they are, and how sad it was to treat someone new like that. And since then, some of the friends in that group no longer talk to me as much as they used to. Now, why am I posting this? Well, because next week is their moving in party to their new house where all family and friends are invited. I got a personal invitation from them asking for both of us to attend. Now, I can't help but feel as if this is a trap, and I refuse to put a good person through something like this ever again. So should I leave behind my group of friends? Am I overreacting in some kind of way? Should I call out my friend's fiance on her immature and toxic behavior? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, these do not sound like good friends at all. It sounds like they've turned their back on you because of some weird misunderstanding or some kind of like circumstance with dating, and now they're literally treating you like crap right to your face while also pretending to still be friends. Like, in my opinion, I think you really need to take these situations for what they are and take them for face value. These people are treating you like crap. No friend in their right mind would act like this, and I think you need to listen to your gut here. Because I know if I was in your shoes, I would happily start focusing on the other group of friends. I would move over to them immediately and not look back. I wouldn't care if these people get upset by that, especially if they're going to be disrespecting you and your girlfriend like that. And you know what? It sounds like your friend's fiance is the reason all of this is happening, and the fact that everybody's going along with that, in my opinion, means that they all agree with this fiance. By them allowing this to happen, it really does mean that they're okay with it. And that, in my opinion, is not the mark of a good friend. And if I was in your shoes, there is no way I would ever want to deal with that. An entitled teacher gives me detention, all because I went to the bathroom in the staff bathroom, resulting in my mom as well as another teacher being livid about the situation. Here's what happened. Okay, so basically what happened is that I ate something bad, and I was really desperate to use the bathroom in my school. It was recess, and all the girls were hogging the main bathrooms, like freaks trying to get ready for the Met Gala. Hysterical screaming, unintentional makeup sessions, bathroom hogging to chat with their annoying friends, and to use their phones in private. And as a side note, we don't allow phones in the school day, and they collect our phones until the end of the day, where we retrieve our phones and call our parents and all this other stuff. There are special cases like art students or English class activities where they give students the privilege to keep their phones out. It was so bad that I had to move to our second bathroom, and yes, we have two bathrooms, one with 5 stalls and the other with 15 or 17. And this second bathroom was the bigger option, where the socially anxious people typically go to. Sadly, the security did not bother to unlock it and let me through. Plus, no one had the key for this bathroom yet. I was getting desperate during this time, and I was getting anxious about possibly crapping my pants. In our school, we have girls and boys divided into two sides of the school, where they primarily have lessons in their designated spots, or sometimes they'll go to the other side if their schedule tells them that they're having a class somewhere in the opposite side. There are girls' bathrooms on the boys' side and vice versa on the girls' side, and I wanted to go to the boys' side to use the girls' bathroom there, but sadly I couldn't hold it in, and that's where I discovered the staff bathroom beside bathroom number 2 to be empty. Well, I used it immediately, and I was relieved, but that's where the trouble started. My former math teacher, also known as the vice headmistress, who is the entitled teacher of this story, stood outside. She was with another teacher I didn't recognize who was also visibly displeased, and I tried to explain everything to them, but it simply wasn't enough. She looked at me and said, "What are you doing in the staff bathroom?" I responded back by saying, "I was desperate, miss. It really was an emergency." The teacher then said to me, "I understand that part, but you could have went to the girls' bathroom that was unlocked. Using the staff bathroom without permission is strictly prohibited." I then said to him, "But I went there and it was packed with a bunch of girls. I know that there may be vacant stalls right now, but I ate something bad, and I came this far and I was afraid that something bad might happen." Before I could continue, she interrupted me and said, "Still, that is unacceptable. You also could have gone to the office and asked for the key for the second bathroom. The staff bathroom are only for teachers and staff staff use at all times, and you must not use it a second time, else that's a misbehavior email sent to your parents. Understood? I responded back by saying, yes, I understand, but miss, I could have made an accident if I hadn't used the staff bathroom right away. She then said to me, I know that. Still, there are alternative places that you could have went to. You could have went downstairs to the primary bathrooms as well. Now, for reference, the primary bathrooms were prohibited for us 7th through 12th graders, and I couldn't even get there even if I wanted to. In the end, I had to sit in the reflection room as detention after school for an hour for taking a dump in the staff bathroom, and I was facing the walls purposefully from my anger. Eventually, as teachers passed by the room for a good 10 minutes, I spotted my other headmistress who manages the upperclassmen, namely the 10th through 12th graders. She immediately walked in and asked me why I was there. I explained everything and she looked livid after that. She told me that that teacher shouldn't do that, and using the bathroom was basic human rights which they cannot take from us. After bailing me out and comforting me, she had a talk with the other teacher and told me to leave quickly. I also told this to my mother, and she's planning to have a talk with the principal and this teacher about this situation since they kept me from leaving for an invalid reason. I don't have any updates on the situation yet, but right now my mother was truly disappointed, mostly from this crap and also with them not informing my mother about it and making her wait late outside for picking me up to go home. We're currently sorting this entire thing out right now because this entire situation is incredibly frustrating. Okay, first and foremost, you did the right thing by telling your mom, because hopefully your mom can take care of this in a major way. That teacher is out of her mind if she's really gonna act like that and pretend like, oh, you can't use the bathroom for emergencies, and then send you off to detention as if you did something wrong. From the sounds of it, and especially based on the reaction from the other headmistress, it doesn't seem like you're a bad kid at all. If anything, it seems like you're just like a normal kid trying to go through school, and this other teacher has a stick shoved up where the sun doesn't shine and is taking it out on you just because you had to use the bathroom. So seriously, hopefully your other headmistress and your mom chew these people out for what they did to you, because this is absolutely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my sister and her kids move into my apartment simply because I don't feel like I have to share with them, and I'm finally back on my feet after working incredibly hard? Because right now my whole family is saying that I'm the jerk, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 28-year-old male, and I've been working my butt off for the last 5 years after a really rough patch in my early 20s. I got laid off twice, I went through a breakup, ended up couch surfing for a while, and even stayed in my car for a couple of weeks. I finally landed a stable remote job last year, cut out all the non-essentials, and started aggressively saving. A few months ago, I got approved for a small but decent 2-bedroom apartment in Texas. It's nothing fancy, but it's mine. I'm not rich or anything like that. I've still got to budget carefully, but just the idea of not having roommates or sleeping in someone's living room feels like I've won the lottery. Well, I made the mistake of telling my mom, and she was happy for me until she casually mentioned it to my older sister, who immediately called me and said, so when should we start packing? Now, I thought she was joking, but she wasn't. It turns out she assumed that because I was moving into a 2-bedroom apartment, it was obviously for her and her 2 kids, and her kids are ages 5 and 7. She's been living with her ex's parents for almost a year, says the situation is toxic, and she needs to get out as soon as possible. But here's the kicker. We haven't even talked in over a year. There wasn't a fight or anything like that, we just drifted apart. And she never once asked how I was doing when I was struggling. I told her gently at first that this place is my fresh start, and I've worked really hard for it, and it's my first shot at peace and privacy in years. Well, she flipped out. She said I was being selfish and that family helps family, and that her kids deserve a better environment. Then my mom jumped in, blowing up my phone. She told me that I should let them stay until my sister gets back on her feet, and that it's heartless of me to let my niece and nephew suffer. Now, everyone in my family is calling me ungrateful and cold, saying that since I don't have kids or responsibilities, I should be the one to make sacrifices. Some even suggested that it's just a couch, like I'm moving into a mansion or something like that. But I've been the person sleeping on couches, and I begged for help and I've gotten silence. I didn't guilt trip anybody, and I didn't try to move into someone else's home, I just figured it out. Now that I finally have something of my own, I'm being told that I'm the bad guy for not giving it away. So truly, am I the jerk for telling my sister that she can't move in with me, even if it means that her and her kids might end up in a shelter of some kind? I honestly feel like I'm drowning in guilt, but I also feel like I earned this. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I don't think you're obligated to help them out at all. Maybe that's heartless, but guess what? Just because you have a 2-bedroom apartment doesn't mean that she's somehow welcome to move in. Like, that level of entitlement and just assuming like, oh yeah, I'm moving in, don't worry, I'm on my way. Like, that's crazy and there's no good excuse for that. So no, you're definitely not the jerk here, because trust me, if I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way. I caught my husband on multiple hookup and dating websites, which has led me into a downward spiral, as right now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. happened. Okay, so at the beginning of the year, I had logged into my husband's computer to fill out some paperwork that needed to be printed. I then noticed that one of his open tabs was a map of a random apartment complex address. Immediately, I felt something wasn't right, so out of curiosity, I looked at the history on his computer and my god, my gut was right. I found that he had created multiple profiles on hookup websites starting as early as November of last year. And when I say multiple, I'm talking about 15 sites, maybe more. I noticed on the majority of the websites, he was the one to initiate the conversation by sending explicit pictures to random women asking how they felt about casual hookups and wanting to talk more about them. Later on that day when he got home from work, I confronted him about all of it. He said he wasn't serious about any of it and had created them due to having a mental breakdown, which he showed no signs of having one at the time. He swore up and down that's all it was. Well, about a week after I confronted him, that gut feeling of knowing something was off just still hadn't gone away. So I asked to see his phone and I was right again. He has multiple dating apps on his phone, some of which were installed back in February of 2024. There were also lengthy conversations on Telegram that showed him asking about all kinds of services, if you know what I mean. At this point, I had gone into a downward spiral and began to experience symptoms of PTSD. By the time I somewhat snapped out of it, he had deleted all of his history on his phone and his computer along with all the apps and the websites. Now this tells me that he's hiding more, but every time I ask him about it, he says there's nothing more that he's hiding. I may not be the smartest person in the world, but I do know that when somebody deletes all of their history, that usually means that there's more that he doesn't want me to find out about. So seriously, how do I get him to open up about the honest truth? I am not the type of wife who will constantly nag him about it until it eventually comes out. I stupidly still love him and I don't want to end our 12 years of marriage, but I don't know how to trust him ever again or get rid of the extreme PTSD that I still have from all of this. What should I do? Oh man, I can't say much of what you should or shouldn't do, but I know for a fact, in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would be like absolutely losing my mind. There's no way I would put up with that for a second, and that in my opinion is a red flag that I simply could not ignore. Like first off, I kind of wish you had taken pictures or screenshots or something, just so you know for a fact that no, you're not crazy, because if we're looking at this legitimately, there is no way this is some kind of like accident. He didn't do this because of a mental breakdown. He did this because yes, he was 100% gonna cheat on you. Like that is absolutely what was gonna happen, and I'm so sorry to have to spell that out. So hopefully this works out between the two of you, because what your husband did, in my opinion, is incredibly messed up. Am I the jerk for offering my clothing to a coworker after I lost a bunch of weight? Here's what happened. So I have a coworker that I am very close to, and we eat lunch together every single day. Now, it's important to know that I have a lot of clothes, and so many things that I've never even worn that they still have tags on them. My coworker is always commenting to me that she loves my clothing, and if I ever decide to give anything away, please come to her first. And for reference, we were the same size. And I say we were the same size because recently I lost a lot of weight and I've gone down 5 sizes. I've been working really hard at it, but I haven't been talking about it that much because it seems to be a bit of tension between the two of us. She's never said anything outright, just some passive-aggressive comments about how I'm getting too thin, and I just ignore it because a lot of people say that, and I think it's just a result of the shock of me losing weight. I still have about 30 pounds to lose before I even hit the 150 mark, and I'm still very short. I'm definitely not too thin, and I still suffer from body dysmorphia, so I don't even think I'm thin at all. I recently went through my clothing, and I have a shocking amount of things that have either never been worn or have only been worn once. So I put them together in boxes, and on my next trip into the office, I asked her if she would like me to bring those in so she could go through them. Well, her face took on this very shocked expression, and then she said to me, "Why would you ask me that? Why would you insult me by asking me if I want your hand-me-downs? That is so humiliating." And when she said this, I was stunned, and I think I might have actually said I was sorry and just walked away. To make things even worse, there's another friend in the office who was also my size, and as we went out to the car later that day, she asked me what the boxes were in my car, so I told her they were my larger size clothing and that I had brought them for our other coworker, but she didn't want them even though I didn't go into the details about it. Well, she went nuts and asked if she could go through the box instead. She called her daughter who worked very close by, and we spent the next 45 minutes going through the boxes and getting the stuff that she wanted. They literally took almost everything. While they were doing it, the other coworker came outside to leave for the day and saw what was happening, and she just got in her car and left, and later that night she texted me and lit into me about me giving the clothing to the other coworker. And now I'm so confused. Did I insult her in some way? And if I did, why would she even care if I gave the clothes to someone else? After several years of a good working friendship, she won't even speak to me anymore. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk at all. It seems like this other coworker is just pissed off that you lost all this weight while she hasn't lost any. And instead of still being your friend, friend, she's now trying to be like, oh, I can't believe you, and trying to play like the victim or some dumb crap like that. Like, no, I don't think so. Because you literally still considered her a friend, but she clearly feels otherwise. So no, this is not a friend, and this is not someone you should even have to deal with, because you absolutely didn't do anything wrong. My entitled mother-in-law keeps asking me about my inheritance that I'm getting from my dead grandparents, constantly pestering me and going behind my back to try and find out how much money I'm getting. And at this point, I feel like I'm going crazy because right now I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my grandparents recently passed away 10 months ago. They were extremely hard workers and ended up having a decent amount of money to leave to the family. I was extremely close with them, so their passing really impacted me. For context on the will, I'm getting a nice gift of money from them, but it's nowhere by any means life-changing. But regardless, I just don't see it as my mother-in-law's business. My mother-in-law is the sort of person that when talking about someone will always refer to their wealth. She is obsessed with what people have. She has a real victim mentality, so often she'll say, oh, I wish I had this. How lucky is she? She also is a massive bragger and a name dropper. For example, my sister-in-law was dating a wealthy man, and it was all my mother-in-law would ever talk about. She didn't even refer to him by his name. I used to have a good relationship with her, but she has said some very hurtful things, so now I really struggle with her and find interacting with her really painful. She lives out of town but has been back to visit 5 times since my grandparents passed away, and while the will is being dealt with, every time without fail she asks me, oh honey, how is everything going with your grandparents' will? Or she'll ask me, is your family selling your grandfather's house and business? I try to keep my answers to one word and roll into another conversation, but she is getting more persistent. I know she is pretty open about her finances with her family, but my family isn't like that. Most recently, she directly asked my husband what I received as an inheritance when I wasn't around. He knows I want to respect my grandparents who were private people and not talk about specifics. So he said I received something, but he isn't sure exactly how much, even though he definitely does. Well, my mother-in-law sulked about and didn't talk to him for many days, as apparently it's not a big deal. I mean, family shares this stuff, and I just want to know that you're okay. Now, my husband is softly spoken and avoids conflicts at all cost, so he really just tries to keep the peace without any kind of arguments. I know a more direct question is 100% coming from her soon, particularly as we are selling my grandparents' house this week. So is there any suggestion on how to deal with all of this? I don't want to have a confrontation with her. I mean, she does play the victim no matter what, or one with my husband, even though he should be setting boundaries, but I really don't like how she keeps asking, and I find it pretty disrespectful. I just don't see why she needs to know any of this information. And at this point, I'm so frustrated that I really don't know what to do. Okay, this really pisses me off because this is so uncalled for. She has visited your house 5 times and she lives literally in another town. And she's only doing that because she wants a piece of the pie, or what she assumes the pie would be. Like seriously, this is so toxic. And it's such an awkward thing to ask somebody. Like in my opinion, you just don't ask about other people's money. You don't get involved in that. That is such a weird, murky territory that I personally believe is completely out of line. It's just out of bounds. It's something you don't talk about and you just leave that alone. I would even put that up there with like politics and religion to an extent, especially when we're talking about like family and like family stuff going on. Bringing finances into the mix is so intrusive. And I think it's so funny that your mother-in-law is not even like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry for your loss. But instead she's like, okay, so how much money did you get? Is that will getting figured out? What's going on? While also going around your husband, who is incredibly spineless in my opinion, and asking him what's going on and how much money you're getting. Because guess what? You've got it right. He needs to start setting boundaries. He cannot allow that woman to walk into your life and act like this, even if she does play the victim, which by the way is just a cop-out, and it's a place for her to hide when someone inevitably calls her out. That's why she does it. Like that's the only reason she acts like that. So in my opinion, I would be very direct the next time she asks a question like that, because there is no way any of these questions are even remotely appropriate. And I think if you do that, hopefully she'll get the picture and leave you guys alone, especially if your husband's involved, because I really think if he's not involved, this is just gonna fall on deaf ears. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My boyfriend says that I start all of our arguments, and he says that he blames me for our problems, leaving me wondering if it truly is all my fault, because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, lately my boyfriend and I have been arguing a lot. For reference, I'm 29 years old and my boyfriend is 48. Yesterday, he told me I'm the cause of all of our problems and that I provoke every single argument. He's always kind of implied it, but hearing him say it so directly really hurt. He also called me a liar and overly sensitive, and that really stung. So I asked him, is that really really all you see in me? If I'm causing all the problems, then why do you even want to be with me? And I wasn't trying to start another fight. I genuinely wanted to understand. But now I don't know what to think. I mean, is it really all my fault? I told him that arguments shouldn't be about blame, but about working through things together. But he just kept saying, well, you like arguing, don't you? You start all the fights. He's generally a kind person, but sometimes I don't feel that kindness from him. I couldn't sleep last night. I just kept replaying everything, wondering if I could have handled things better. I did say some hurtful things too, and I do feel guilty. I pointed out that he has a pattern of blaming his exes for his past failed relationships, and he told me that before it was always his exes, but it wasn't fair of me to bring that up. I also hold on to certain things, like the time that we had an argument on a holiday, and I walked off and sat by the sidewalk crying, and he then took pictures of me while sitting next to me smiling at his phone camera. When I asked why, he said it was to show me how I ruined his evening. That moment still lingers, and sometimes I bring it up because he never really apologized. I've noticed that I cry more easily now, and it might be dramatic, but sometimes I just can't help it. Last night, when he was ignoring me and tried to leave, I said, if you leave now, it's over. I know that was toxic and I apologized afterwards, but I was just hurt because he was ignoring me. I'm scared of being too insecure or even a narcissist. I want to be better, but I don't know how. And as much as I feel lost in this relationship, leaving feels impossible. I love him too much, and if I left, I know he would never let me see his dogs ever again. I love them dearly, and the thought of losing them too just breaks me even more. What should I do? Okay, what in the world is going on right now? Like, this guy's an awful boyfriend. He sounds like a really big piece of crap. Like, just absolutely not a good person at all. First off, the fact that you're even trying to pretend like he's a kind person is absolutely a lie, because this guy does not come off as kind. He comes off as a massive jerk who would rather take pictures of his girlfriend crying on the sidewalk instead of trying to like sit down, apologize, and figure things out. Like, what are you talking about? This guy is not a nice person. And I don't know why you're putting up with it. Because no, you're not being too insecure. You're not being dramatic. Like, I think you're asking for the base level of respect you would want out of a relationship. So in my opinion, if you did want to leave, it's totally possible. And sure, you won't see the dogs anymore, but my God, you would be away from this toxic weirdo because that's all this guy really seems like to me. So hopefully you can see that this guy is not all he's cracked up to be and that you absolutely can do better, because your boyfriend doesn't sound like he loves you in the slightest. And instead, he really sounds like a massive bully. My mom and dad are the only bullies I've ever had my entire life, as they are also the only people to ever make me cry. And even to this day, they still affect me, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I don't remember much about my childhood at the house, but one thing I do remember is being mocked and bullied by my parents. Every time I would cry, they would laugh at me and mock my crying. This specifically would happen during fights, and I would never cry to them about something personal because they were the ones who made me cry. They would make me cry over small things too, like a stain on my clothing or me closing the door too hard. And honestly, not much else comes to mind except for me crying. They still do these things to this day, and I'm now 21 years old. I thought I would have gained a little respect as I got older, but I was wrong. One thing my dad likes to do is accuse me of not taking accountability if I tell him that one of his accusations is untrue. For example, there was a time when someone left a crack in a glass cup, and he immediately assumed it was me. I told him it wasn't me, and he shamed me by saying I don't take accountability. He also told me that just because I don't pay for things around the house, I suddenly don't care about the items they buy. This happens a lot, and to stay on his good side, I have to accept his assumptions, even though they're not true. Either way, I get in trouble. My dad also has a limit on how often I can go out. If I go out one day, I can't go out again for the rest of the week. Sometimes I tell them I'm going to work, turn off my locations, and go do something else instead. Now, when it comes to my mom, she confuses me so much. One day, I think she likes me, and the next, I think she doesn't. She pushes me away and then pulls me back in. One time, we got into a huge fight about why I was upset on my birthday, and this happened on my 18th birthday. The reason I was upset was because the first restaurant we went to had a long wait, and my family told me to choose another place. All I said was, okay, let me think. And then my sister got mad at me for some reason, and it made me feel a little emotional, so I started crying. My parents then looked back at me and said, why are you crying? Oh my God, there's no reason to cry. I tried explaining why I was upset, but then they just got mad at me. My mom and I were then cleaning and washing the dishes later on, and we touched on the topic of my 18th birthday. It turned into an argument, and I said something like, well, that's stupid. And then right there, my mom tried to hit me. She's a head shorter than me, so I was just trying to avoid getting hit in the face. But one thing I would never do is put my hands on my mom. I tried leaving the house because the whole situation caught me by surprise, but she tried blocking me from leaving and took my car keys. So I left on foot on a hot summer day, adrenaline pumping through my body. I didn't realize I had scratches on my arms from my mom trying to hit me and sores forming on my feet as I walked on hot concrete. My dad found me and picked me up, trying to calm me down, and my brother was there with him. When I got got home, my mom was sitting there in tears and told my dad that I had put my hands on her. She had no marks, but I did. I showed my dad my marks, and my mom said something that still breaks my heart. She looked at me and said, "She did that to herself. You know how she is. She lies all the time." My own brother then said that he saw me putting my hands on her. So I gave up after that and I just kept quiet. Now, my brother, for some reason, likes to see me get in trouble. I don't know why he lied that day, but he does that often, and I always forgive him even if I don't want to. My parents also love calling me crazy, always telling me that I need help. Sometimes I overthink what they say, and it starts affecting my mental health. I try to limit interactions with them because every time I see them, we can't go a minute without arguing or them giving me snarky remarks. I still love my parents dearly when they're not this way. I know I'm not perfect either, but I just can't take their behavior anymore. They're the only people who can make me cry, and I'm doing the best I can to toughen up and not let the dumb things they say affect me, but it's hard. I think maybe I'm too soft, but honestly at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, first and foremost, please tell me that the original poster does not live with them anymore. Seriously, these people are awful. They're not good people. If you do live with them, then you need to figure out a plan to get out of that house. That does not sound like a safe environment in the slightest. These people are monsters and they're treating you like garbage. They're not kind people. They're not loving people. They are awful in like the worst way possible. I mean, just look at your mom and your brother. Your mom claimed that you hit her even though she hit you, and then your brother, being the nasty monster that he is, tried to be like, "Oh yeah, I saw her do it." Like, what are you talking about? None of that's true. You need to speak up and get out of there. Like, this is not a loving environment. These people don't love you. Like, they are textbook narcissists, and you do not need that in your life because the way they're treating you is incredibly bad. Am I the jerk for not being willing to split the cost of a group gift when I literally was not even included in the card and the gift itself? Here's what happened. Okay, so one of my friends got a new job recently, and some of my friends decided to get her a little gift. I was in the group chat where it got brought up, but I was super busy with studying and I didn't say much. A couple people were throwing around ideas and I figured they'd update us later. Well, last weekend they gave her the gift, which is an AirPod Pro, and posted a little photo of her holding it with a card. And you know what? I didn't even know they picked something out already. I also wasn't asked to sign the card or even told when they were giving it to her. Then that same night, one of the girls' Venmo requested me $20 for my share. I asked what it was for, and she said, "Well, the gift obviously, like I should have just known," or something like that. I told her I didn't get to sign the card or even know what they picked, and she said it didn't matter because I was part of the group and it's just what we all agreed to. But it's like, okay, but I never agreed. I don't think I was included and I wasn't even asked. After that, they are saying that I'm making it awkward and that it's not about the money. It's about celebrating a friend, but I kind of feel like I was treated like an afterthought and still expected to pay. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because right now I am incredibly confused. No, you're not the jerk. This is really weird. Seriously, they pick out a gift and then after the fact they're like, "Oh, by the way, because you were in the group chat, you owe us $20. This is clearly just for the gift, obviously. I mean, you didn't know about it, but you do now." It's like, no, if I'm not signing that stupid card, then guess what? I'm not going to be paying for the gift because they move forward without you and still expect you to pay for it. Like, what is that about? These people are idiots if they think this is making things awkward, because this is really awkward for you even though you didn't do anything to like contribute to the gift. You were added into this group chat and then you were never talked to ever again until they wanted money. And that says a lot more about them than it does about you. So yeah, these people suck and you are definitely not the jerk, because if they wanted you to have any kind of like financial contribution, then they should have included you from the beginning to the end. My mom is the most toxic person I know, and after enduring it for so many years as well as going through therapy, I seriously thought I was the crazy one until one of my friends finally admitted that they no longer like her as well. And at this point, I can't wait to move out because I seriously want to put this all behind me. Here's what happened. Until I sought therapy last year, I wondered for my whole life if my concerns were valid. I wrote a list of 95 reasons why I dislike my mom, which I condensed down for the internet. I will not reveal my exact age, but I am female in my mid-20s and my mom is in her late 50s. There are many details I'm leaving out as well, so in the event my family read this, they wouldn't know that it's me. I trimmed this down multiple times and there's a lot of missing information. So to start things out, I have an older brother who's a few years older than me. As a child, I noticed that he was always prioritized over me during family conversations or even dinner. Due to my brother's poor life decisions, my parents' lives will always revolve around his issues more than mine. My mother also treated us differently. When I got glasses, my mother was upset because I no longer fit her family's beauty standards. I was not allowed to wear glasses in photos, but my brother was. She also let him watch rated R movies at an earlier age than me, let him smoke the herb, and was still upset with me when I said that I did, and doesn't bat an eye when he skips church while she gets upset when I do. She would pick up my brother from school if he had a headache, but forced me to go to school when I was sick with an autoimmune disease. Beginning in 2nd second grade. I had to help mom do every job that she ever had. She always acted incapable, and honestly, I think she is. Like, she is just quite stupid. My brother never had to help her, and my mom always knew I was more responsible than my brother, and yet she is against me moving in with my fiance before marriage. My brother got to move in with his girlfriend, and mom didn't seem to mind. I mentioned earlier about my brother's poor life decisions. She always pushed his problems onto my dad, who now has anxiety. Lastly, she failed to recognize the codependency issues between her and her son, which mirror her own mom and brother. Mom has always had a very tense relationship with her toxic mother. Those issues were not addressed properly before she had to move in with us, and mom has never sought counseling for any of her family problems. My mother attempts to portray her family as this good Christian family, but we are far from it. Meanwhile, her marriage to my dad has never been one I've looked up to. The relationship has always felt tense and awkward, and mom doesn't seem to appreciate dad for providing for the family for their entire marriage, or for dealing with their son. She just loves to complain at him for little things. When I saw counseling last year, she insincerely apologized for everything she's ever done to me. She failed to recognize my autistic symptoms, and I had to pester her for about a year before she took me to get a diagnosis as a high school senior. I've always felt like she relied on me for happiness. She has expressed jealousy of my talents and tried to live vicariously through her children. She is easily set off, and I always had to watch what I said around her to avoid a hissy fit. Until I went to college, I felt like I had to revolve every decision around her. She would fake emotions to get me to feel worse about things that I did, and she openly admitted to doing that to her students multiple times. My mother overworked me in elementary school, as I had to help her with her job after school. Then I had other extracurriculars after that. She wondered why I was falling behind in math, and actually blamed my teacher for it. She also frequently picked me up from school during math time whenever my brother wasn't feeling well, and when I didn't have friends, she manipulated me into thinking my classmates were the problem when it was really me. She does not understand boundaries and gets upset when my brother and I politely try to settle them. She cites that she is in her 50s and knows more than we do about boundaries. Anytime anyone tries to criticize her, she just shuts them down and defends herself. She is also incredibly lazy. There have been many times where she gaslit me into believing I did things that I never did. To this day, she still views me as a teenager, even though she acts like one herself. She lacks awareness of her emotions, which is why she quickly escalates serious conversations. Despite claiming to love gay people, she did not believe or accept my bisexuality. She has expressed negative views of other religions, often in front of my friends, and she would not accept my religion, nor would she want to be educated about it. She is transphobic, xenophobic, and openly sexist. Despite her constantly speaking out against other groups of people, her daughter is knowingly a Buddhist, and her son has all kinds of issues. And despite being an educator, she voted in a way that honestly I can't understand, and she wonders why her friends just stopped talking to her. I know she is going to try and indoctrinate her grandson, which is one of the many reasons that I don't want any children. Anytime her job assigned something that she didn't want to do, she gave up and just quit, even though she always told her children to never give up. She's fine with me and my fiance spending quality time together, but not okay with us living together. She spends hours watching TV every night, yet she claims that she doesn't have any time to clean her house. She says she is easygoing and flexible, but she really isn't. And trust me, I could go on and on about her hypocrisy. My mother has never had good eating habits, and she always gains back the weight that she loses. She won't exercise because she dislikes sweating, and her lack of exercise is now being reflected in her difficulty to move around. She went from being stronger than most men to the laziest person I know. She has also turned our family home into a storage unit. She constantly buys stuff off of Amazon, and she rarely gets rid of anything. Mom blames dad for not being able to throw anything away, but she is also the problem. And if dad and I had the choice, our house would be rid of all of her junk. Recently, my friend admitted that she disliked my mother, and she always had. And I was so happy to hear someone else say it. And so I wondered if strangers on the internet wouldn't like her either. But with all things considered, I will be moving out this summer as soon as I secure my next job. And so hopefully I can soon enough put all of this behind me. Yeah, that sounds like a messy situation, and yeah, your mom is incredibly toxic. It goes without saying that she clearly had favorites, and you were definitely not one of them. She had such a big double standard, it's not even funny. So yeah, in my opinion, I don't blame you for cutting her off and not wanting anything to do with her, because the way she treated you was completely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for not letting my coworker interrupt me anymore, as he constantly does this to literally everybody in the office? And after dealing with this for so long, as well as sitting idly by while he just interrupts everybody around him, I'm finally taking a stand and trying to get him to shut up. And at this point, I'm not sure if I'm the jerk, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been at my job for 3 years now, and in personal and professional conversations, my coworker continually interrupts me. And this is not just me, but it's everyone. Usually, someone will start to speak, and after about 2 seconds, seconds, he will interrupt. Not always about the same subject. Sometimes he will just spark into a completely different topic. There's professional conversations that have to happen, and we literally sit right next to each other. I always thought that's just how his brain works, or he's got a different communication style or something like that. Well, recently, I started to just literally talk louder and not stopping when he interrupts. It usually leads to both of us talking for about 1 to 2 seconds, and sometimes he will stop and slow down, and sometimes he just keeps going, almost ignoring what I'm saying. I feel crazy, and I feel like everyone else at work notices. I then just asked him to stop interrupting me, but when I brought this up to a friend, they said that that's a jerk move to do, even though it didn't work. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Okay, I honestly cannot stand when people do this because there really is no good excuse. Like seriously, just wait your turn. Wait until the other person is done talking and then jump in. Don't just interrupt a mid-sentence and think it's gonna be okay. Like that's obnoxious. That really is obnoxious. So in my opinion, I don't think there's anything wrong with you literally addressing this in front of everybody and just being straightforward with this guy and saying, please don't interrupt me. And I think saying this in public really would make a big difference. At least that's what I would do, because then he will absolutely know right then and there that this is wrong and that he needs to change. So no, you're definitely not the jerk for addressing this, because this really is incredibly rude, and you do not deserve this in the slightest. I overheard my sister confessing her love for my fiance, leaving me in a weird situation where I seriously now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my friends recently hosted a little party get-together for my sister since she had been gone for a while in Florida with her boyfriend, but was coming back up north after they broke up. It had some of our mutual friends, along with some of her old high school buddies and some cousins. My fiance and I had gotten there a little bit late, but we were excited to join the celebration, and I was mostly happy to see my sister again since she has been pretty distant and rarely texted or called us. Nothing really happened other than some shots being poured and food being ordered until it was getting late and people started getting really drunk. Since wedding planning has been exhausting, my fiance and I were going to leave early. Now, to sum up a really quick moment, I had been walking to the bathroom and past the bathroom where I heard my sister crying into somebody's arms. Originally, I was gonna go see if I could help her out or comfort her, but then I heard my fiance's name and I paused. I definitely think I was the jerk for listening in, but I was curious and a bit drunk myself. But from what I gathered, she was sobbing about how seeing my fiance made it all real again, and that she didn't want to deny her feelings anymore, especially now that he's getting married to me. What really stuck out to me was when she said that she just wanted him to notice her too. I left pretty quickly after that and haven't told anyone about what I heard. Maybe I never saw the signs, but she was always so polite and friendly with my fiance. She knew him before anyone else since we were high school sweethearts, and I came out to her first when I was struggling with my identity. It is just such a strange thing to hear this from her, but part of me just wants to blame it on my drunk brain. She's never said anything like this before, and even greeted him when we got to the party, and they connected on a mutual interest for a bit, and she was so warm to me as well. I want to confront her to see if she meant it, but I'm also just so terrified of the result of all of it. My family has stayed drama-free, and I would hate to ruin everything now that my sister just got back from being away. I really need advice on how to proceed, and how to ask her about it without causing a scene. The party was a week ago, and I just feel sick whenever she messages me or calls to ask about wedding stuff, or just chatting in general. So I know that I need to do something. Has anyone been in a situation like this before? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Before we go any further, the original poster has an update that they would like to share. Here's what they had to say. First of all, I want to thank all the people that responded. I really didn't expect to get so much advice, and I probably would have still been panicking and bottling this up if you guys didn't help out. But unfortunately, it still went bad. But I'm glad I listened to you guys for all of it. Also, to clarify a few things I saw people get confused on in the comments. My fiance is gay, and I never doubted his loyalty, which is why I barely mentioned him in the original post. I was mostly concerned about my sister, since we wanted her in the wedding party, so it was extra scary to hear she was crushing on my fiance. Along with that, I know a lot of you said to just leave it be, but for the reason above, along with my personal beliefs, I really did not want to let it simmer. Anyways, I ended up talking with my fiance the day after I made the post, once he got home from work and we were settled. I sort of just word vomited at him, but I tried to remember the advice that I had gotten. Well, he was equally disturbed, and probably a bit more since he has dealt with a similar situation at work once. We both definitely wanted to talk to her and just clear the air, and ended up making a little plan to meet her in a park. Originally, it was just gonna be me, but my fiance wanted to stay nearby in the car. So yesterday, I texted her and we met up. Honestly, I'm still recovering from everything she said to me, so I won't repeat much of it here. The basic idea is that once we chatted for a bit, I brought it up gently that I had heard her at the reunion party, and I wanted to communicate with her about the things that she said. One thing I didn't feel the need to mention in the original post was that I'm also also a transgender man, and it didn't matter to the issue, or at least I thought it didn't. However, once I asked my sister, she started on a whole tirade with a lot of right-wing talking points, mostly that she didn't get why my fiance was settling for a confused girl rather than someone like her, and admitting that yes, she has feelings for him since she thinks he deserves better than me. I didn't say much to her, but once I realized what was going on, I just said that I was done and I left. I really don't know how she's changed so much since the girl I grew up with, because she used to be super supportive, which she even acknowledged, and said that she was just as lost as I am. After that, I was just a mess. My sister is living with my parents while she works to get a job in a new area, so she's also started telling them about the conversation. Both of my parents don't want to get involved, which I understand, and I tried texting her to tell her to stop bothering them, but she blocked me, so I guess that's that. My fiance wants to cut her from the wedding as a whole, and I'm just leaning on him as a pillar right now. I wish this was a happier update, and at this point, I still seriously don't know what to do. Okay, first off, the way that your sister's treating you is so disrespectful. She seriously is trying to like throw you under the bus and be like, your fiance deserves me instead of you. You're just a confused girl. You don't know what you want. And it's like, wait a second, what is going on right now? So truly, I think your fiance has a good point, and I think it would be smart to possibly cut her from the wedding, especially if she's talking about you like that, because that's super toxic and you do not deserve that in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. I really want to go minimal contact with my mother, despite the fact that I still live with her at the moment, and at this point, I'm honestly not sure what to do. Here's what happened. So I've lived with a very entitled and emotionally impulsive mother for most of my life, and I'm thinking about finally cutting contact once I move out. Today we got into it because I made a snide comment about our chips and dip being gone so quickly. I bought some for myself and only had maybe 2 bowls of chips and some dip, and was basically gaslit into thinking that I had eaten it all, even though I clearly remember not eating the dip to the point that it was even halfway gone. It's a ridiculous thing to get upset about, I know, but then she got super defensive and argumentative and berated me. I wasn't even that upset about it. What really upset me was her gaslighting me about it and berating me. That's when I walked away, and she, of course, came and knocked on my door about it, and I was boiling on the inside. I usually shut down during confrontation due to having autism and ADHD, so I didn't say much and I just shut the door. This isn't the first time that she's been overly demanding. About 2 weeks ago, I was struggling really bad mentally and was noticeably depressed. She asked me what was wrong, and I told her I didn't want to talk about it right now, but she just couldn't leave it at that. She was asking all these questions like, what are you depressed about? Tell me what's wrong. You can tell me what's wrong, you know, as well as, oh, you need to talk about it. Now, I appreciated her concern, but blatantly violating my boundaries like that almost sent me over the edge. If I say I don't want to talk about something, I mean it, and her just trying to pry information out of me I felt was extremely disrespectful. There's many things that she's done in the past that have made me lose trust in her. One of the worst was when I broke my leg in the 3rd grade and I needed help getting out of the shower. So she was helping me and I was getting anxious and scared and telling her to hold on and don't let me fall or put my leg down or even slip because our tile floors were getting slippery. She then got mad and pulled me by the arm, and I fell and she left me on the bathroom floor by myself. I literally had to pull myself up and get dressed all on my own. Also, the countless times that she got a little too aggressive with physical discipline in the house. Now, don't get me wrong, I had emotional regulation issues and behavioral issues as a child, but when you raise a neurodivergent child, as a parent, you need to be the stable one, and she definitely wasn't, responding to my behavior with aggression, threats, and ultimatums. Not only that, but she's also verbally awful towards my father. If anything goes wrong in the house or something isn't done, he gets the brunt end of the blame and called lazy and selfish, even though he works 25 hours a week, while on disability mind you, to support her while she's unemployed. Also, when my sister was struggling with depression in college and opening up about it and crying, she made it all about her. She would say, "There's nothing I can do about it. You're making me feel bad about it." So yeah, I've just about had it, and the only reason I still live at home is because of my disability and the fact that rent is extremely expensive. I can't stand living in a house where someone constantly snaps and rants about the tiniest things and thinks that she's entitled to sympathy because of her awful childhood. And when she doesn't get what she wants, you will get called cruel and selfish. I have great sympathy for the fact that she went through that, since I was mistreated by other family members too, but I would never try to think I'm owed anything because of it. It wasn't my fault that I was mistreated, and neither was it hers. But at this point, I'm absolutely done with all of this, and I seriously don't know what to do. Oh man, I totally understand that you don't want to rent someplace, but from the sounds of it, anything seems better than what you're dealing with right now. Like seriously, this lady sounds obnoxious and incredibly rude, and I don't blame you for being frustrated. frustrated, like seriously. So hopefully this works out in some kind of way because your mom sounds incredibly obnoxious. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would not want to deal with that in the slightest. Am I overreacting for ending things with a girl after seeing a Hinge notification on her phone while we were on a date? Because right now, I'm concerned that I might have made a mistake. Here's what happened. For a bit of context, I had been dating a new girl for about 3 months. We met on Bumble and lived about an hour apart, but texted every day and met up at least once a week for a date night. At around the 2-month mark, I asked her to be my girlfriend. She said it was too early and she didn't want to put labels on things, but we agreed then to be exclusive and not to see other people. Last Saturday while we were at dinner, I saw what I thought was a Hinge notification pop up on her phone. It was only for a split second, so I kept it to myself so we didn't ruin our evening. I thought maybe I was mistaken, but my paranoia got the better of me, and the other day I finally downloaded Hinge to search for her profile, and sure enough, I found it. Yesterday, I sent her screenshots and I asked her to please explain. She then started saying that she deleted all of her apps, but she just forgot to deactivate the profile. But then when I mentioned I saw the notification while we were at dinner, she changed her story. She said that she only deleted Bumble but not Hinge, and claimed that she just had it on her phone but wasn't actively using it. When I asked why I saw the notification go off, she said it was probably just a promo or a new like, but she hadn't talked to anyone new since our second date. After going back and forth, I told her I was having trouble believing her, and it felt like she was still looking around for a new guy. I would have 50 to 60 hour weeks and have had experiences in the past with girls stringing me along until they find someone better. I told her I thought we should end things here, and then she just unloaded on me. She said that we shouldn't break up over a misunderstanding, that I was the nicest guy she had ever met, and that on Saturday she wanted to ask me to finally be a couple but was too nervous to say it. Part of me wanted to believe her, but I felt like she was just saying what I wanted to hear since she had been caught. So seriously, am I overreacting for ending things so quickly over this? On one hand, I really have a hard time believing that she just had Hinge on her phone passively while wanting to be a couple like she claimed. It's a big 180 degrees to go from not wanting to put a label on things to me being her dream guy. I know that she had feelings for me, but I feel like she was still looking around to see what else was out there. I've had similar issues with exes in the past and don't want to relive the experience. On the other hand, what we had was good, and I really enjoyed being with her. In hindsight, we were early in our relationship, and maybe she was being sincere with what she said. Maybe I did rush and end things a little too quickly and we could have just talked it out. What should I do? Okay, honestly, I can kind of see both sides of this, but at the end of the day, I do understand why you did that, because having that kind of past experience of being strung along and feeling like you're not a priority absolutely can hit you like a ton of bricks. Because one day you're madly in love with this girl, but the next day she's suddenly like, oh, I don't like you anymore, see ya. And that is jarring, and I hope nobody goes through that. So no, I don't think you overreacted, because it really does seem like she was looking around for somebody else instead of trying to build a relationship with you. Am I the jerk for yelling at my mom for eating peanut butter in her own house, despite the fact that she knows my daughter is incredibly allergic to peanuts? Because right now, after I freaked out on her and chewed her out, I feel that I may have overreacted, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my daughter was diagnosed with peanut allergies a year ago. For reference, she's 2.5 years old. She became almost unconscious, vomiting, and landed us in the ER. It was terrifying to see my baby go through that. It's also important to note that I love my mom so much. We're really close, and she loves my daughter like crazy. Ever since the diagnosis, everyone in my family has been in agreement to not eat those nuts around her. It seems so obvious and easy to my brothers and my dad, but my mom keeps making what I think are dumb decisions. When we go on vacation, she will go out of her way to bring big bags of nuts and nut candy with her. She brought a little bag of pistachios when she stayed at my house one time and started shelling and eating them in my living room after my daughter went to sleep. She bought peanut M&Ms to eat on a plane ride we all took together. On these occasions, I kept my cool as I asked her not to do these things and pointed out the ridiculousness of her having to eat the one thing that my daughter is allergic to. Well, we've been staying over at her house for the past few days, and this morning my mom was eating a sandwich. My daughter then went over and asked for a bite, and my mom said, sorry, sweetie, you can't have this, it's peanut butter. And at this point, I kinda lost my mind. I calmly asked her why she was eating peanut butter, and she said, I don't know, as she dumped it in the garbage. And it's there that I kinda lost it. I got very emotional and raised my voice, which is something I never do. And I chewed her out for always eating nuts around my daughter, even though she knows that she's allergic to it. And despite the fact that I've asked her not to multiple times, I told her I want to trust her so badly to watch my daughter without me me there, but I just simply don't. I can't now. And then I cried and stormed out of the room. Anyways, am I the jerk for yelling at my mom in her own house over this? Because right now I seriously don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk at all. This really is unsettling, and I seriously can't believe your mom's acting like that. Because from my point of view, it doesn't seem like she's taking any of this seriously. And it seems like she's doing this almost like pointedly around your daughter. And that is seriously messed up if that's actually what's going on right now. Here you have a kid who literally will go to the emergency room and possibly pass away from that, and your mom's just sitting there being like, oh man, suddenly this is my favorite snack. It's like, dude, what are you doing? You are seriously being so careless about something that is so dangerous right now. So no, you're not the jerk in the slightest. I would be very pissed off if I was in your shoes, because she is literally not taking any of this seriously, and that is so unfair for your daughter. Am I the jerk for deciding not to invite my husband's family to my kid's birthday party after they literally called her a mistake? Because right now I'm really pissed off and I don't know if I'm overreacting. Here's what happened. Okay, so me and my husband have been together for 5 years. We had our daughter pretty early on, and yeah, she wasn't planned, but we were happy and I have no regrets at all. His family, well, not so much. They've always been kind of cold towards me, and honestly, I've noticed that they don't treat our daughter the same as our other grandkids. Last weekend, we were at his mom's house for a late dinner, and she and my father-in-law were talking about my husband as a teenager. My mother-in-law then proceeded to joke in front of my daughter, saying how he used to be so carefree and go with the flow before he had to settle down so fast. Then she added on by saying, I bet he wished that he had more time before jumping into the dad life with an oopsie baby. And when she said this, I was pissed. We ended up leaving soon after that since it was getting late anyways, and that night as I tucked my daughter into bed, she asked me what an oopsie baby was. I felt heartbroken for her and basically explained that sometimes people have kids by accident, but that didn't make her any less special. After I put her to bed, I ranted to my husband, saying that I don't want his mother-in-law around our daughter if she's going to be saying stuff like that. The last thing I want is for my baby girl to be questioning whether or not she's wanted. I then said that I don't want my family-in-law at her 5th birthday party next month, and I won't be sending them an invite until they apologize for making things awkward. My husband says I'm overreacting over a small comment, and I need to relax and not make this a thing. He argued, saying that I shouldn't overreact at a comment that she made when she was tired. He told me I'm not allowed to uninvite his family, especially over this. So am I overreacting? Should I just suck it up and let them come to the party and risk my daughter hearing more harmful things? I'm honestly really upset, but I feel like I'm the only person who's mad, so at this point, I really don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're overreacting at all. This is completely reasonable in my opinion. They literally called your daughter a mistake. They said, oh, this is one of those accidents that didn't mean to happen. And worst of all, they said it in front of her. Like, are you kidding me right now? That is so messed up. You can't do that to a kid. Just because you accidentally got pregnant doesn't mean that you don't love your daughter and that you're not happy that she's around. Like, my God, what kind of monster would say something like that in front of the kid? So no, I don't think you're the jerk for not inviting those people, because seriously, what they said was completely messed up. My friend almost gets fired after I deny a report she made to HR about my manager, causing her to be very angry and making me question if I'm the jerk or not. Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 24-year-old male, and I work at a corporate company working from 9 to 5. I just graduated college last year and started this job 2 weeks after graduating around June. It's an internship at a solid company that's going to help me get better jobs and opportunities later on. In the beginning, everything was going great, and I made several friends, including someone who we will call Chelsea. Chelsea is a 26-year-old female, and she has been my friend since the beginning, and we share everything with each other and often go out for coffee and lunch. Just as a side note, nothing romantic or anything intimate has happened between us at all. It is strictly a platonic relationship. The problem started in November when I got transitioned to a different department under a manager who we will call Ryan. Ryan is a 43-year-old male and definitely has a narcissistic personality and loves getting his ego fed. And this is pretty well known throughout the office. Ryan loves ragging on the new guy. And since I've been the new guy since November, I've been the one who's getting the brunt end of it. Now, I have pretty thick skin, so I don't get bothered by it easily, but Ryan has noticed this and started really cracking down and started embarrassing me in meetings and giving me busy work so that I have less time to do the real work. And after 6 weeks of dealing with Ryan, I started looking for new jobs around December. After a long process of job hunting, I got an incredible offer in the beginning of March. But the problem is that my new job doesn't start until June. Obviously, I need to pay the bills, so I'm stuck working with Ryan for another 2 months. Since my current job only requires me to give 2 weeks professional notice, I decided I'm not going to inform them until the end of May, which is right at the 2-week mark. Until then, I'm just playing nice and making sure no issues happen so that Ryan doesn't try to sabotage my new job. Okay, so getting back to Chelsea. Chelsea doesn't work directly under Ryan, but works in an adjacent department, so she knows Ryan pretty well. well. Chelsea is also the only one who knows about my new job. Chelsea has been pressuring me to go to HR about Ryan's behavior, but I've told her that I don't want any problems and that I'm not going to go to HR. I just want the next 2 months to go by smoothly and get out of here. Well, the other day, Chelsea and I were hanging out in her office and Ryan suddenly comes in. Now, for the purpose of being anonymous, I'm not going to say what happened next. However, Ryan did something to me that was definitely a fireable offense. After that happened, Chelsea told me I have to report Ryan, but I said no and then I just left. Well, it turns out that Chelsea took it upon herself to go to HR directly. HR called me into their office and asked me for my side of the story, and you know what? I straight up lied. I told them nothing actually happened. So HR dropped the issues, but word got around and Ryan found out about it. And now he's trying to go after Chelsea and get her fired for being a liar. And now Chelsea is mad at me and won't talk to me, and she's blaming me for her almost getting fired. But it's my prerogative whether or not I decide to report it. I understand that she thinks that me letting it slide means that it will affect other people too, but to be completely honest, I'm looking out for me and what's best for my future. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, the original poster is absolutely the jerk. You mean to tell me that you had a manager who was actively mistreating people in the office and who mistreated you in front of another person, and you don't have the guts or the spine to report it and get that guy in trouble? Like, are you kidding me right now? That is so stupid, because the way he's treating you, especially the part that you left out of the story, all of that is completely inappropriate and it really leaves a bad precedent for that place. It doesn't matter if you're leaving or not. That guy deserves to be reported. Also, I'm pretty sure it's illegal for that guy to try and like sabotage your next job or like get you fired or in trouble or something like that, because at least from my experience, once you report someone like this and they try to like hurt your career, that can be seen as retaliation and then you can sue them into oblivion. So to that regard, you absolutely suck for not speaking up, especially when you had every opportunity to do so. But also the fact that you threw Chelsea under the bus. You literally called her a liar and got her in trouble, and then seriously put a target on her back with Ryan staring right at her. Like, that makes you an awful person. And I really mean that. Like, that really is so messed up. So sure, you can sit there and try to be like, well, I'm looking out for myself. But at the end of the day, you ruined the one good friendship you had at that office. And the fact that you did that, in my opinion, proves that you absolutely are the jerk. An entitled Karen tries to claim that I did $2,000 worth of damage to her car when all I did was accidentally bump it with my door, resulting in one of the weirdest blow-ups I've ever seen from a person in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things off, I was parked getting out of my car when the wind blew my door open gently. It barely touched the car next to mine, and there was no visible dent and just a possible mark. Well, I immediately acknowledged it and I offered to exchange information. When I explained it was the wind, not to avoid responsibility, but just to clarify that it wasn't a careless act, this entitled Karen cut me off. She said to me, No, something like this happened before and it cost $2,000. My car is new. At that point, it felt less like she was assessing real damage and more like she was trying to guilt trip and manipulate me. She even pointed out a completely unrelated mark further down and insisted this was from my door too, which made no sense based on where the door touched. And then it escalated fast. She then started filming me and my toddler, who was crying in his car seat, scared and confused. She threatened to call the police, and I was trying to stay calm while juggling my phone, pulling up my insurance application, and soothe my child, but she just kept the camera on us. I could feel my son's distress behind me, and that's when I lost it emotionally and I called 911 myself. I didn't feel safe or respected, and I needed a neutral record of what was happening. After I gave her my info, I went back into the car to comfort my son, who by then was screaming and crying from the stress. I then looked up and she was still filming us. I was literally just trying to calm a scared toddler, and she kept her phone pointed at us like we were some kind of show, and that moment broke me. But you know what? It didn't stop there. When I showed her that I called 911, she told the police that I banged on her window, which was absolutely false. I simply held up my phone near the window to show her the call screen. She also accused me of locking my child in the car with no air circulation, which was so far from the truth it's not even funny. I was right there with the window cracked and the AC on. It was just another manipulation accusation meant to make me panic. She even lied about having the same insurance as me when I first mentioned mine, but it turned out she was with another one. It was just more weird, unnecessary power moves. I know she probably assumed that she could intimidate me because I'm an immigrant and English isn't my first language, and I look like someone who might not push back, but I didn't back down. I gave her my information, I made the call, and I stood my ground. My husband then showed up by Uber when I called him, and for the first time in the whole interaction, I felt not alone. I'm still feeling the stress hours later, but I am proud of how I handled it. I didn't yell, I didn't film her back, I didn't escalate, and I protected my son and I kept my dignity because I want him to grow grow up knowing that we do not back down from unfairness. We do not let people shame us into silence. And even when our hearts are pounding, we still speak up, especially when you're dealing with Karens who act like this. Oh man, this Karen is so far out of line, it's not even funny. Seriously, think about it for a second. She's literally filming you guys and being like, wow, you're a terrible mother. You're gonna pay $2,000 for my door, while also trying to blame you for other marks that she did herself probably. Like, this level of unhinged is completely unacceptable, and I seriously just can't stand when people act like this. So regardless of what this lady says, I really hope you took a lot of pictures of the damage just so you can show the insurance company that she absolutely is lying to them, because this Karen was clearly trying to scam you out of a lot of money, and that is not fair for you or your family in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my roommate that she can't bring her boyfriend over unless he starts buying groceries? Because he quite literally is eating me out of house and home, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so me and my roommate, who we will call Chloe, have been living together for almost a year. We split rent, utilities, and groceries 50-50, and it's been mostly fine until her boyfriend basically started living with us. Like, he's not officially moved in or anything like that, but he's here 4 to 5 nights a week, sometimes even more. He showers here, he sleeps here, and he eats all the time. He will make himself full-on meals with our shared groceries and not even ask us first. And before anyone says anything, yes, I've talked to her about it. I brought it up just kind of casually at first, where I would say to her, hey, do you think your boyfriend could pitch in for groceries since he's here a lot? But Chloe just laughed it off and said, oh, he doesn't even eat that much. For the record, my boyfriend comes over too sometimes, but he only eats food that I specifically bought, like snacks that I keep in my room or label, and he always asks before he does that. One time, he accidentally ate Chloe's leftover takeout from the fridge because he thought it was mine, and she absolutely flipped out, like full-on mad for a whole day kind of flipped out. I apologized and he offered to replace it, but she was still super salty towards him. Meanwhile, her boyfriend's making grilled cheese, eggs, ramen, helping himself to whatever's in the fridge, like it's some kind of free-for-all. I let it go for a bit, but last week I went to make lunch and I realized he finished the last of the eggs, bacon, and lunch meat that I bought, and that was my last straw. I mean, I'm a college student. I literally cannot afford this. I told her again, but more directly this time, that if he's gonna be here that often and eating our food, he needs to start contributing, or just not eat stuff that I paid for. Chloe got super defensive and said I'm being unfair, and that I'm gatekeeping food, and that I'm making things awkward when he's literally just existing. I said it's not about him being here. It's about him acting like he lives here without actually paying to live here. Now she's barely speaking to me and said that I'm ruining her vibe and making her feel like she can't have her boyfriend over. I'm seriously not trying to be controlling, but I also don't want to be feeding a third person for free. So did I overreact in this scenario? My boyfriend, my best friend, and my mom are the only people who know about this. My boyfriend and best friend are on my side, while my mom thinks this would be a stupid thing to end a friendship over, and I should just let it go before it turns into something bigger. What should I do? Okay, I am 100% on the original poster side here, because this guy is eating all of your food. This is a really simple solution. Like, Chloe's boyfriend needs to step up and start paying for his share, especially if he's here 4 to 5 nights a week. Like, at that point, you basically live here and you need to start contributing or get out. And it's the fact that he's polishing off all of your groceries, like that in and of itself would make me go crazy. I would be super frustrated, I would be really annoyed, and that would not be okay for me. Like, seriously, I would be super upset. So yes, you have every right to be pissed off, because what your roommate's allowing, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for going off on my friends after they made fun of my 9-year-old niece with really cruel jokes, which eventually led to her crying and breaking down? Here's what happened. Okay, so here's the situation. I'm a teenager and I was hanging out with a group of friends who love to joke around a lot, and I'm used to their sense of humor. It's sarcastic, edgy, and sometimes borderline mean, but I've known them long enough to know what's serious and what's not. My younger 9-year-old niece, however, is not used to that kind of humor. She wanted to talk to them while I was gaming or chatting with them, and I warned her and I said, you might not like them, they're not always the nicest people, but she insisted. She really wanted to join in and seemed really excited, so I agreed. But I specifically told my friends beforehand, hey, she's only 9. Please don't go too far or say anything mean. And when I said that, they agreed. Everything was fine for the first few minutes. She was talking with them and even singing a little. I went to the bathroom for literally a minute or two, and when I came back, she was on the bed crying and shaking. I asked her what happened, and she told me that they were making fun of her singing and saying mean things to her. I looked at the chat, and sure enough, I saw some of their comments, and they were sarcastic and really mocking. And I don't care if they say it was just jokes. She was clearly not okay. I told them, what is going on? I told you not to go too far. They replied by saying, we're just joking, quit being dramatic. And you know what? That just set me off. I said, no, she's a kid. You don't say that to kids. That's common sense. You guys are jerks. After that, I blocked them and I haven't spoken to them since. But they keep trying to spin it like I overreacted and can't take a joke. But I really don't think I was wrong for standing up for her. She is just a little kid who wanted to hang out and got emotionally wrecked instead. I know I went off on them hard, but I'm still furious about it. And honestly, if someone did that to your younger sibling or niece or cousin, wouldn't you go off too? So seriously, I really need to know if I'm the jerk because I'm not sure if I took things a little too far. No, you're not in the wrong here. Your friends are idiots. They also don't sound like good friends in the slightest because in my experience, people who constantly make these kind of jokes usually are not joking around. There's usually some kind of truth in what they're saying, but they're framing this as a joke even though they really mean it and they're just being jerks. So yeah, these people suck and you can definitely find better friends than this because anyone who willingly makes a child cry, in my opinion, is a massive piece of crap. Am I the jerk for telling my friend that he can't be upset that a girl he had a crush on has a boyfriend? Because right now he's pissed off at me and is refusing to talk to me. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 22-year-old female and I was friends with this guy who's 25 years old and he was telling me about his work crush. He said that she has the perfect body and her face isn't that bad. And for reference, I work with him so I know he has never spoken to this girl. This girl 2 days later became friends with me and I find out that she has a boyfriend. So I tell my friend because I thought it would save him the embarrassment of trying to ask out a taken woman. He then texts me and says he's really disappointed and wished that he didn't tell me that he had a crush on her because he didn't want to know that she had a boyfriend. He had told me he was going to ask her out, so he would have found out eventually anyways. And this makes me upset because why are you so upset when you never spoke to this girl and we've only worked with her for 3 days? She also rarely talks at work, so it's not like he could like her personality from that. And now I'm friends with her and I actually like her a lot, so it makes me even more upset that he would depersonalize her like that. I responded by saying, you don't know her, how could you even care? I then realized that was a bit mean, so I was like, it's okay, I'm sure you'll find someone eventually. He then proceeds to ignore me for 2 days, so I text him and I ask if we're still on for hanging out tomorrow, since we said we would before that text. He responds back by saying no, so I tried to call him so that we could talk, but he declines it. I then texted him and he told me that he was upset because of the comment. I explained that, and as he knows since I have told him before, that I have been used for my body multiple times by men who don't care about my personality. So when he made that comment about her body, it really upset me. He responds by saying, stop texting me. And I was confused and I asked, okay, are you serious right now? He then said, stop texting me, it's bothering me. And now I'm confused because that feels like a crazy reaction in response to my text. I know it wasn't nice, but to stop being friends with me altogether seems insane. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because I honestly don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk at all. Your friend is weird. You would think him finding out that this girl is taken would be like a relief of some kind, because then he really can avoid being embarrassed and like humiliating himself. And the fact that he's like cutting you off and acting like, oh, stop texting me, you're bothering me. This guy is clearly super immature, and I think you can find way better friends than this guy. Today, I messed up by meeting my girlfriend's family, who she told me multiple times was a messed up group of people. But despite the fact that I didn't believe them, once I met them, I realized very quickly how bad things truly were, eventually leading to me begging my girlfriend that we leave and never come back here ever again. Here's what happened. My girlfriend always described her family as people I would never want to meet in person because they were apparently the worst. I struggled to believe that anyone related to her was as bad as she made it sound, especially because she never wanted to tell me anything about her relatives, so I had nothing to go on. Well, since I recently flew all the way to South Africa to spend time with my girlfriend, I encouraged her to introduce me to her family. Well, my girlfriend agreed to take me to her mom and dad's house if I agreed to leave her family out of our relationship going forward, and I said I promised. Well, fast forward to my girlfriend deciding to drive me straight from the airport to her family's house, and I was unaware that we were on our way to meet the family until I paid closer attention to where we were, which was not where my girlfriend lived. My girlfriend said I wanted to meet her messed up family so bad, so she was about to introduce them to me. I said I didn't expect us to go on this journey as soon as I landed, but I guess we're gonna meet this messed up family one way or another. My girlfriend referred to the area we entered as the Cape Flats, which appeared to be a low-income community. As my girlfriend was driving deeper into the Cape Flats, she pointed at various groups of guys standing on different street corners and said if I wanted to avoid getting stabbed, then I should avoid going to those guys. One of the guys actually noticed my girlfriend and waved at her as we passed him. She waved back at him before telling me that she used to date that dude, but then he ended up going to prison for beating up one of her math teachers because said teacher made her come to school on a Saturday, which was supposed to be their day. By the time we arrived at our destination, destination, I learned that I could get taken out and that my girlfriend used to be in love with a guy who might have been capable of doing that. Well, fast forward to meeting the family, and my girlfriend and I had to let ourselves into the house because everyone was too busy enjoying themselves by the cookout in the backyard. No one was sober when we showed up, and the dad welcomed me with a beer and asked if I had American money on me because he always wanted to see a dollar with his own eyes. So I opened up my wallet and I showed him a dollar. The dad showed the dollar to the rest of the family, including his wife, who then proceeded to put the dollar in her bra before telling me to come and get it. Well, my girlfriend then just looked at me like, well, I warned you, didn't I? So I made peace with the fact that my money was most likely gone for good because I was not planning on going there just to get a dollar. My girlfriend eventually pulled me away from her parents and introduced me to her brother, who gave me a quick nod before shifting his attention back to my girlfriend and asking her if he could borrow her car to go out and get more alcohol. My girlfriend said that she was not giving the keys to her car to her intoxicated brother. Her brother pointed at his girlfriend who was dancing on her own in the backyard and said that she could drive because she only had one beer. My girlfriend asked her brother if he was referring to the young-looking girl who was twerking to a remix of My Heart Will Go On by Celine Dion. So I said that I would drive. And when I said that, my girlfriend and her brother seemed really surprised. I said I was willing to drive if the brother showed me the way. Well, my girlfriend then flat out asked me if I was attempting to impress her degenerate family. The answer was yes, but I said no. My girlfriend then sighed like she was pitying me and eventually gave me her car keys. So there I was, driving the brother, and he made me stop at several locations on our way to the liquor store. The first location was where we picked up his friend before going to the following location, which was where the herb supplier lived, if you know what I mean. The brother offered to share this with me if I promised to tell my girlfriend nothing about his side quest. Well, I didn't accept it and I made no promises. I was too stressed out about all the unplanned stops that we were making to even think about getting high and keeping secrets. The friend then directed me towards the nearest barbershop and got out. The brother promised me that we only had one more stop to make before going to the liquor store, and the final pre-liquor store location was where the brother's baby mama lived. The baby mama never answered the door when the brother came knocking, and I was relieved because it was obvious that no one was home, and I thought that meant that we could leave. But the brother continued knocking on the door and saying things to his baby mama, who he believed was pretending not to be home to piss him off or whatever. I didn't understand anything he was saying because he was speaking to his baby mama in another language, but he would turn to me from time to time and feel the need to tell me what was going through his mind at the moment. My girlfriend called to ask me where we were, and I said I would explain everything when I got back. Well, I eventually got back with the brother who finally got the alcohol, and as soon as I saw my girlfriend again, I begged her to get us away from her family. Oh wow, this really does sound like a nightmare because my god, I think we've all been there to some degree. Here's the thing, if you have someone that you love and care about, and they really tell you like, listen, my family is messed up, let's not go there, then I think it would probably be a good idea to listen to her because she probably knows a lot more than you. It's also crazy to me that this guy literally agreed to drive this brother around a town that he's never been in. Seriously, from the sounds of it, this brother sounds like one of those people across the street who could get him taken out. Like, what was this guy thinking? That is so stupid. So yeah, this really was a big mess up, and hopefully this doesn't happen in the future because this is not a mistake that you want to make twice. Am I the jerk for asking my mom to pay to attend my wedding after she nearly blew me off and said that she couldn't afford it? Because right now I'm not sure if I'm making a mistake, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my mom chose to abandon her parental rights when I was 10 months old to be with a man that she met and moved states away. She came back into my life when I was 4 years old after they broke up and was in and out of my life my entire childhood. When she would come back into my life, she was extremely awful both emotionally and physically. My father was also not perfect. He was an alcoholic. I had been put into foster care a few times, and my mom never showed up to any of the court dates. When I was 14 years old, she found God and remarried an extremely hardcore religious man that she met at church. And needless to say, her husband has always hated me, told me that I couldn't live with them because I didn't follow the path of God, and they've never helped me with anything financially, and she never even paid child support. Well, fast forward to 2 years ago, and her husband have had 3 daughters, ages 12, 10, and 7 as of right now. And it's then that my mom asked me to buy her restaurant for $25,000. It started to get to the point where she was begging me, trying to tell me that it was a great business investment, that she had so many offers and wanted to keep it in the family. And she said I would make easily $100,000 a year. She didn't know her husband had texted me months earlier saying that their business was failing and he wanted me to help them turn the business around. So I told her I was sick of her only contacting me when she needed something. She then had my sisters to call me and leave me voicemails asking why I was ignoring them and wouldn't come visit. I got engaged in June of last year, and my fiance's family offered to put in $15,000 for the wedding. My dad matched that, that, and my fiance and I are putting in around $10,000. My fiance has a huge family, and I only have about 10 people on my dad's side. My mom found out about our wedding from Facebook and offered to fly out my aunts, her daughter, and both of my grandparents. They all live in Thailand, so I was really grateful to be able to have them there. I've always had a pretty good relationship with them and wouldn't be able to afford to pay for all of their flights here without her. I was ready to bury the hatchet just to have them attend, but my dad's family made it very clear that they didn't want to pay for her and her family. I then asked her if she could just pay for herself, her husband, and her family, and she told me that she could only give me $1,000 because she has to pay for her kids' private school. Well, with catering, the bar, and rentals, everything ends up being about $250 a person. When I told her this, she said that I should expect that everything else would be paid off by gifts from the guests. Now, I don't want to seem ungrateful and selfish for telling my own mom and family that they can't come to my wedding because they won't give us any money, but I really did not want to have other people, especially my father, pay for her to be there when she's never helped me with anything in the past. So am I the jerk for telling her that she can't come unless she gives me more money? Because right now I'm honestly not sure what to do. Okay, to be completely honest, I don't even know why you're even allowing them to show up in the first place. Your mom sounds obnoxious, and it sounds like she really is just not a good person. She was not there for you growing up, and it seems like she's just not there now. So the fact that she's not willing to pony up like everybody else has, in my opinion, shows everything that you need to know. And in my opinion, that means that she shouldn't even be there, especially if she's not willing to pay what everybody else is. Am I the jerk for telling my girlfriend that she needs to clean more if she's not going to be getting a job anytime soon? Because right now she's saying that I'm being unreasonable, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. My girlfriend and I have been together for 4 years and have been living together for around 2. She had a part-time job up until January or so, working 2 to 3 days per week, but she quit because she couldn't stand working there any longer. Now, I, on the other hand, work a full-time job. I have a full-time college schedule, even though all the school is online, but it still requires around 4 hours of work per week. Anyways, I don't mind being the provider, but I don't want some traditional wife who's only there to cook, clean, and look pretty. However, I feel I'm putting in 40 hours of work a week and 4+ hours per week into school. So the least that she could do is pick up around the house, namely do the laundries or do the dishes. I go to work from 9 to 5, then we go to the gym, and then I come home and I cook for us. Every time I try to express that our effort feels one-sided, she says that I'm being unfair and that she shouldn't be the only one doing these things around the house, which I agree with to an extent, but she does nothing worthwhile while I'm at work. She'll sleep, lay in bed on her phone, or play video games. I just don't know how to work something out. Her friends are also taking her side and say it's unfair for me to ask her to clean, but I really don't understand how that's unreasonable to ask. So truly, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I'm still incredibly frustrated. No, you're not the jerk. Honestly, this seems completely reasonable in my opinion, and I think she really could step up and try to take care of the house more at least while she's not working. And also, let's be honest for a second. I kind of see it as a big red flag that she quit her job all because she didn't want to work there any longer, but she only worked there 2 to 3 days per week? That's not really that bad. Seriously, there's no reason to quit after that. Unless this job is some kind of actual nightmare that we're not aware of. Because for me, 2 to 3 days of work a week would not be that bad. I could do that no problem at a part-time schedule. Are you kidding me? So no, you're not the jerk for asking her to clean more, because in my opinion, that is the bare minimum that she should be required to do. My boyfriend left me out of a family trip that he was going on to Japan, as he literally told his family that he doesn't want me to go, while also claiming that I would ruin the trip because apparently I'm a pain to go on vacation with. And now, after all of it's said and done, I feel so heartbroken that honestly it's making me question everything. And at this point, I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I've been with my boyfriend for 3 years, and this situation has been weighing heavily on me for the past 6 months. Back in August, my boyfriend's family started planning a trip to Japan. At first, I thought it was just a family trip, but then weeks later, I found out that one of his siblings' girlfriends was invited. It felt strange that only one girlfriend was included, but I tried to let it go since it seemed like a family holiday. 2 months later, I saw a text message from his mom. It mentioned me, and his mom said, "Are you sure she definitely is not coming to Japan?" And he responded by saying, "No, definitely not." And you know what? I had no idea she had even asked me about joining. Well, I was hurt and I confronted him about it, and his reaction was to be defensive. He said things like, "You're a pain to be around on the holidays. I don't want you there because you'd ruin the trip. And yeah, I told my family I didn't want you there." He also said both the other girlfriends were going, but I was the only one left out, and that he was glad about it. This then led to me completely breaking down, and I went nonverbal for hours, but he dismissed my feelings, calling me immature for being upset. Now, my reasons for it being wrong was that he lied to me, clearly lied to his family about asking me, and being completely isolated from his family family and other girlfriends. Now for context, the girlfriends have been in the family for 10 plus years, and they all live in the same area and grew up there. Well, I eventually forgave him, even though I still felt terrible about it. But over the last 6 months, we've argued about it repeatedly. I just wanted him to acknowledge how wrong it was and to genuinely express regret or remorse. But instead, I've only received what felt like empty apologies, saying how sorry he was, but with no action or responsibility. This weekend, he went on the trip, and I've been struggling to control my emotions. The idea of him and his family and the girlfriends having dinner on holiday, making memories of a lifetime while not including me, honestly feels unbearable. I feel like I'll always be left out and that I'll have to hear about it for the rest of my life. When I brought it up again, he apologized and said that he had wished he had handled it all differently, but he said he can't change it now, and that he would say he wants me there but doesn't want to make me feel worse about not being there. But it doesn't feel like he regrets what happened or even wishes that I was there. I'm still haunted by the things he said back then, and I feel like I'm not valued in his life the same way I value him. I'm struggling with whether or not I'm overreacting. Am I wrong to still feel hurt about this situation? Should I just suck it up and get over it? Or is it reasonable to still be upset after all this time? I love him so much, and there's a lot of reasons I've pushed through these feelings because he is worth it, but I feel like he doesn't really care about my feelings and the effect this situation has had on me and my self-worth. What should I do? Okay, my God, what is going on right now? Why are you still with this guy? I don't normally say that, but seriously, this guy does not sound like a good boyfriend. He's clearly not in love with you. If anything, he's just stringing you along. He openly said, "You're a pain to be with on vacation. You're just gonna ruin it. I don't want you there." Like, what loving boyfriend in their right mind would say that to their girlfriend? Like, seriously, this guy sucks. If I was in your shoes, I would be immediately breaking up with him. Like, I know for a fact if my family was going on vacation, my girlfriend would be the first person I take on that trip, especially if I really care about her and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be so much fun for the two of us. If anything, he's treating you like an annoying best friend that he secretly hates instead of your girlfriend who he should be caring about. So truly, I am so sorry that you're dealing with this, and I'm so sorry you're dealing with an immature jerk like this who's claiming to be your boyfriend, because in my opinion, this guy is not that. He doesn't give a crap, he doesn't care about anything that you're doing, and worst of all, it doesn't sound like he has any regrets for not inviting you. It really seems like this is like some kind of half-hearted apology where he's saying it out of obligation instead of like actually meaning it. And in my opinion, you don't deserve that, and you definitely deserve a way better boyfriend than this guy, because from the sounds of it, it really does not seem like he likes you in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for continuing to post on Instagram after my boyfriend said it's starting to affect our relationship? Here's what happened. I'm a 26-year-old female, and I've been dating my 27-year-old boyfriend for close to a year. But lately, we've been having the same argument over my Instagram usage. It never used to be an issue, but recently he started saying it's affecting our relationship in ways that are bothering him more and more. I've always been into posting on Instagram, and it's just something that I enjoy. I like documenting little things like food when we go out, outfits I feel good in, or just moments I want to remember. It's not some influencer thing or anything like that, but I like having a creative outlet. He knew this from the start and never seemed to have a problem with it until recently. I haven't really changed my habits up until this point, but now he's saying it feels like Instagram is becoming a third person in the relationship. He says it's getting to the point where he feels like he can't enjoy a meal or go out without it turning into a mini photo shoot. I'll ask him to take a couple of pictures, and sometimes I want to try a few angles or poses, and I guess I can understand how that might feel like a chore. He's told me it takes him out of the moment and makes him feel like he's just behind the camera while I focus on getting content. He's also mentioned feeling annoyed when I spend time editing or writing captions instead of being fully present, which I don't even do when we're out. Another thing that came up is when I post photos of myself in more revealing outfits. I don't do it often, but there has been the occasional post with a tight-fitted dress or something that I would wear in the summer. I felt confident and I liked how I looked. Well, he told me it makes him uncomfortable and that he feels weird about the kind of attention these posts might attract. I've reassured him that I don't reply to DMs or engage in that kind of stuff, but he still says it bothers him and it makes him feel insecure. He's now saying it's starting to affect how he feels day to day. He says it makes him feel more distant from me, like I care more about what I'm posting than being in the moment together. He's not asking me to delete my account or anything like that, but he's clearly frustrated and says if things keep going the way they are, it's going to push us apart. I've been trying to understand his side, and I've made some effort to cut back a bit when we're spending time together, but at the same time, I feel like I shouldn't have to stop doing something that I enjoy just because he's uncomfortable with it. I don't post anything wild, I ignore all all the direct messages, and I don't think I'm doing anything disrespectful. I've told him that if it ever feels like too much, he could just tell me and we can figure it out. But now I feel like he's expecting me to completely change how I use social media just to try and make him feel better. So am I the jerk for continuing to post even though it's clearly bothering him? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I think everybody sucks here because on one hand, your boyfriend absolutely should not be policing your Instagram, but also it seems like you're not willing to make any kind of compromise. It seems like you're willing to say, oh, he's wrong, he doesn't know what he's talking about, while also saying in the same breath, but I'm never gonna change. And it's like, wait a second, there's like no middle ground that you might be able to come to. Like maybe if you're going on a date together, you don't sit there and take a bunch of pictures or something like that, and instead spend time together as a couple. Like for me personally, that absolutely could be a good compromise. So in my opinion, I think there needs to be a little bit more wiggle room from both of you, because I seriously think you're both acting immature, and it doesn't seem like either of you are trying to see the other person's point of view in the slightest. An entitled jerk chooses to use his phone on speakerphone while also loudly shouting in it while I'm trying to use the bathroom. So I got some petty revenge that he truly will never forget. Here's what happened. Okay, so I was at Walmart and I was sitting in a stall tending to my business when the bathroom door opened and a man talking on his phone entered the bathroom. And this guy was talking really loudly. Like it was seriously as if he was yelling into his phone, and he had the phone on speakerphone with the volume jacked all the way up. Now normally I really just don't mind or even care about this kind of scenario, but as the minutes dragged by and the conversation showed no signs of slowing down, I started getting really annoyed. 5 minutes later, when I finished my natural duties and I got out of the stall, this guy was still yelling into his phone. So I said to myself, fine, you want to be loud and obnoxious in public? Well, game on. I washed my hands and like any other guy, I turned the hand dryer on. Now the hand dryers at this store are super loud, and the one I was using was placed in a spot where it emitted a shrill, high-pitched sound if the user held their hands close enough to the nozzle, and it echoed off the walls. So I made sure to take an extra long time drying my hands, guaranteeing that not a drop of water remained on my hands. Well, the guy had left his stall and exited the bathroom before I finished, holding the phone to his ear. And sure, it was incredibly petty, I know, but for me, it was also super satisfying. Oh man, I love this for so many reasons because seriously, I can't stand when people talk on speakerphone in public, let alone when they're yelling into their phone for everybody to hear. Like seriously, get some headphones or talk on the phone normally. There's no reason to drag everybody else into your stupid conversation. So good for you for getting some petty revenge because this guy sounded like he absolutely deserved it. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for breaking up with my girlfriend after she proved to be completely incompatible with me and my life goals? Here's what happened. I'm a 21-year-old male and I was in a relationship with my ex for almost 2 years. Recently, I broke up with her and her friends are saying that I'm the jerk for breaking her heart. For context, we met through a mutual friend back when I was 19 years old, and in our country, we have to attend college for 2 years and then university for undergrad and postgrad. And back then, I was in college. We lived in different cities around 6 hours apart, and I fell for her at first glance, and I expressed that pretty quickly too. We then started dating, with the initial 6 months being long distance. Then she moved to my city for better opportunities at university, and I was over the moon. Her parents were financially comfortable, but still, she was having trouble making ends meet. So I started covering her rent, groceries, and other things. I tried to fulfill her every wish. Now, her ex, with whom she was in a relationship with for only 2 days, was the main problem in our relationship. When she moved here, she invited him in our hangout without even informing me first. But at the time, we sorted that out back then. When university selections were rolling out, I got selected for the top university in our country, and she didn't get any. Her only option was to attend community college or attend a private university, which was quite expensive. But when she didn't get selected, she ended up breaking up with me. But then she came back blaming those words on her mental state. After a while, she said that she can't move on from her ex, and so she wants to leave me. And when she said this, it really broke me, which then led to me starting the pick me dance. And somehow I managed to convince her to be with me. Things were going great, but I have severe anxiety as well as ADHD and PTSD. And when she failed her last exam, she actually blocked me, which caused me to have a panic attack. And this was so bad that I had to go to the emergency room. When she got in contact with me, I told her I was in the hospital, and her reaction was to say, okay, well, a lot of people go to the ER. That's nothing big. And even still, she blamed everything on her emotions and mental state. After moving out, she was constantly saying that I need to marry her and get her into a private university. But I would respond by saying, well, I can get you into a community college or maybe a cheaper university. But she always said, well, if you're not capable enough to fund my education and my dream lifestyle, why would I be with such a worthless guy? If you want to marry me, you have to get me into the university that I say, and you have to cover all the expenses. So after that fiasco, I broke up with her. And now her friends are saying I broke her heart and her dreams. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I'm still incredibly confused. Oh my gosh, your ex-girlfriend sounds insane. And in my opinion, she should stay your ex-girlfriend. First of all, she does not sound loyal at all, because when her life was going sideways, she's like, okay, this is your fault and I'm leaving. While also basically giving you an ultimatum, essentially stating that you need to get her into the university that she wants to go to. And that, in my opinion, is just insane. Like seriously, that's some weird behavior. So it really begs the question, like, do you really want to be with someone like that? Because from the sounds of it, this does not sound like a sane person. It doesn't sound like someone who would ever love you long-term like a wife should. And if anything, it sounds like someone who would dump you to the curb at the first sign of conflict. So honestly, who cares what her friends think? If her heart's broken and her dreams are shattered, and she's blaming that solely on you, then they were clearly not dreams to begin with. If anything, it was just her own delusional manipulation that clearly fell apart. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. This lady sounds crazy and you could do way better than her, because in my opinion, she is only gonna drag you down. An entitled jerk that I play soccer with gets me banned from the organized events we have on a weekly basis, all because I scored on him twice in a game. So now I'm concocting my own petty revenge by literally organizing against them through an application that I'm developing, and I'm truly hoping that this hits them where it hurts. Here's what happened. So I usually play soccer in a weekly matchmaking style game organized by a local team at the nearest field. The format is simple. Anyone can join even if you don't know the other players. It's perfect for someone like me since I don't have many friends who are into soccer, and organizing a match on my own isn't really an option. That field is my favorite, and unfortunately there are no other decent ones nearby, as the other ones are just way too far away. During my last match, I scored 2 goals against a goalkeeper who apparently just didn't take it well. This same goalkeeper, who also happens to be a friend of the event organizer, reported me for allegedly saying something negative about the organizer, which is completely false. I didn't even interact with either of them during the match. Well, a few days later, the organizer called me and told me that I was banned from the event. Now, I tried to explain the situation, but he wasn't interested in hearing my side. I spoke to the field owner, someone I know really well, who respects me for my fair play, but he told me there was nothing he could do, as he isn't the one organizing the event. But now, here's where things might get interesting. For months, my co-founder and I have been developing an app for soccer fields. It allows players to join matchmaking games and play with friends more easily. I've already spoken with a field owner, and he's agreed to use our platform once it launches, which is along with other field managers. That means we'll have access to a wide base of users, including the kind of players who attend these kinds of matches. So, given that, I'll soon have a degree of control over how matchmaking happens. And I think this might be my way of getting some interesting revenge. Keep in mind, I have the full names and phone numbers of both the organizer and the goalkeeper. I considered banning them from the app, but that feels like it's just not enough. And so at this point, I'm considering my options, because this really could be the best revenge I could possibly come up with. Oh man, the fact that you have some kind of way of affecting their entire organization, in my opinion, is really funny, especially if this application takes off and people really use it. Like, you could easily start messing with them in a way that they have no control over, especially since they banned you for illegitimate reasons. Like, why should you get banned all because that guy has sour grapes because you scored on him? It's honestly unfair, and I don't blame you for being pissed off. And hopefully you get your revenge in some kind of way, because these people absolutely deserve it. Would I be the jerk for excluding a family that has a badly behaved autistic child who is quite literally violent towards other neighborhood kids during the pool party? Because right now I'm honestly not sure what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I host a monthly pool party and barbecue for the neighborhood families in my area. I buy about $200 in steaks, hot dogs, and drinks, book the community party room, and send out invites and reminders. And this has become a great way for the adults to connect and catch up while all the kids swim and play. Unfortunately, one of the neighborhood boys doesn't behave appropriately. He splashes kids in the face when they ask him not to, pushes kids into the pool, calls them names, growls at kids when they win a game, doesn't follow the rules of games, and so much more. It's unpleasant for the other kids, and he makes the younger ones cry. His mom yells and screams to take him home, but she doesn't, and so he continues misbehaving. While I'm not well informed on autism, however, my stance is that the parents are responsible for ensuring their kids behave appropriately or removing them altogether. Instead, other parents have to get involved to yell at the kid to leave theirs alone or comfort their crying child. Well, after the last party, 2 of the kids asked me not to invite that boy again because apparently he ruined the day for them. And you know what? I agree with them. And I believe that as part of my responsibility of hosting is to create a guest list of people who add positivity to the event. Well, my husband disagrees, because for starters, he thinks that I should first bring up the issues to the boy's parents and give them one more chance, while also saying that we can't exclude them since it is a community pool, not to mention that he's also just conflict avoidant and doesn't want to ruin relations with the neighbors. So seriously, what do you think? Would I be the jerk if I didn't want to bring these people to our pool party anymore? Because right now I don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk at all, and in my opinion, this should absolutely be something that is easily taken care of. They should be banned from any further interactions you have until those parents take care of the kids, especially around a pool. Like, you don't mess around with any kind of water and kids, because seriously, someone's gonna drown. Like, that is literally what's gonna happen, and that is not okay. And just because he has autism doesn't mean he gets a free pass to be pushing kids into the pool. That needs to be corrected by the mom, and the fact that she's not taking care of it is absolutely a red flag. So yeah, if I was in your shoes, I would have banned that kid and his family yesterday and told him that he is straight up not welcome at any of our get-togethers because he's been violent towards other kids. Because that kind of behavior, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for canceling several plans after a work friend lied about being confused over which shift that she was covering? Here's what happened. Okay, so here's the problem. Both me and the friend are over 35 years old and we work for a major airline. It's also important to note that I'm a gay man. Sometimes when our schedules are published, we will agree to trade our trips around amongst friends. I messaged this friend and offered her a trip with a nice layover, and she agreed that she would take it. 2 days later, when trading became available, I sent her the trip as soon as the system opened and followed up via text messaging just to let her know to pick it up. Well, she attempts to pick it up and then makes it clear that she can't do it because she was awarded a trade with a different system that was for a trip that, conveniently enough, she had really wanted but wasn't able to outright hold. And sure, I know this is complex, but to further explain, this would have been something that she would have done consciously for it to even happen in the first place. So I point out that she could trade out of the trip and could then pick up the trip that she committed to from me, but she refuses. Then she adds that she really wants this trip and assumed that I had been referring to a different trip on my schedule. Now, I did push back and said that she'd agreed to take this trip and that in the future, if we agree on something like this, I would expect her to follow through. I look back at our text messages and there was no way that she could have been confused because she confirmed the trip date in our text conversation, and I so dislike being gaslit. Well, we were supposed to have dinner later that week, which I had intended on going through with and having a discussion with her about this, but I ended up being filled with anxiety that day and I had to cancel a few hours prior, which I did feel badly about just because I didn't want to waste her evening. During this time, I've also been experiencing some serious GI issues for months, which ended up with a visit to the emergency room a few weeks back. We had made plans to go on a trip, but given this health issue and her dishonesty, I made clear several weeks out that I would likely be unable to go, and today I confirm my unavailability. She's since been very distant, and when I mentioned being unable to go the first time, she said to me, well, I haven't even looked to see if I've got the days off, as if she doesn't even care that we had plans or that I had booked a hotel using my free night award to do so and asking nothing from her in return. I have been a good friend to this person, supporting them through a roommate situation that she was very upset about, answering long-winded text messages voicing her frustration, basically being her emotional support. I've even driven this person around to view different neighborhoods, going as far as looking into the place they moved into and assisting them into getting a little bit off of their rent. So with all that in consideration, am I the jerk for withdrawing given this kind of behavior on her end? Because seriously, I don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I don't blame you for a second for taking a step back because this kind of behavior is super obnoxious. Seriously, let's think about it for a second. It really seems like they're taking advantage of you, and that in my opinion is not fair. It sucks that they're literally just taking for granted all of your options for them, as well as all of your time and attention towards their needs, while also refusing to do the same towards you. Like, what is that about? That really sucks. And I think you've hit the nail on the head. She's pretending not to know what's going on as some kind of cover-up to get away with her poor behavior. So no, I don't think you're the jerk, and I think you're completely justified to distance yourself from this friend, because clearly they do not value your friendship in the same way that you do. And that is not fair for you in the slightest. My toxic friend finds out that my dad passed away and only called me to try and confirm that information instead of trying to reach out and give their condolences. So as a result, I decided to end our friendship because I literally could not stand the fact that she only called to try and gossip about my dead father. And at this point, I'm not sure if I made the right decision or if I'm justified for doing things the way that I did. Here's what happened. To start things out, a few months ago, my father passed away. I was on his bedside and it was at 5 o'clock in the morning. He has been battling an aggressive disease for a while, and his partner called me because his situation worsened overnight. I immediately drove home the night before, but he didn't make it to the morning. At the moment, all I wanted to do was cry and mourn and figure out what to do next. My parents are divorced and my mom was in another state, so it was left up to me to make the arrangements all while grieving at the same time. And of course, I called my mom mom to tell her the news. Unfortunately, without me knowing it, mom sends a message to their former coworkers about the news, and it's just general things to pray for me about. Both have been teachers and basketball coaches at high school that I went to, and the news spread like wildfire with social media. I obviously did not check social media at this crucial time, and I was literally waiting for people to pick up my father's body still in the early morning when a friend of mine started calling me. We were close before, and we were in the same group of friends that occasionally still met after high school, and for the sake of the story, let's call her Ella. Now, I didn't answer because I was waiting for the funeral arrangement calls, and I just didn't want to miss it. She tried calling over and over again, which really annoyed me, and it made me wonder how she knew about any of this. So I decided to block her number for a while. It was a long day of crying and making arrangements and then crying some more. When I finally got home that evening, I saw some messages pour in. Finally, I saw that our high school batch's group chat was activated, and I saw the chats and I was completely livid. It started with someone insinuating that my dad died, and the answers that followed were like, "Oh my god, I also heard that. Is that true?" Then Ella started chatting like she was my keeper. She said to them, "I'll confirm the news. I'll call them later on. Just wait for me." And people were like, "Well, what did they say?" And after a while, the old friend said, "She's not answering, so it's probably true." Now at that point, I stopped reading. I realized that this friend was calling me not because she was concerned, but because she wanted to break the hot news to our old high school batch. She did text me several hours afterwards to say her condolences, but the trust was already broken. At my lowest point and on my worst day, Ella pestered me with calls just so she can call dibs on the confirmation. So I ended the friendship right then and there. I unfollowed and removed her from my socials, blocked her everywhere, and did not invite her when meeting with our same group of friends for the said reason. So did I overreact in this situation? Because right now I'm not sure if I made the right choice. Okay, in my opinion, I think you made the right choice because this is so unacceptable. Because it literally shows that your friend did not care about your dad passing in the slightest. They really did just want to break the news to everybody else, and that's all they had on their mind. They wanted to be the one to tell everybody what's going on instead of reaching out and being like, "Hey, I'm so sorry for your loss," or something like that. So no, you're not the jerk because honestly, I would have done the exact same thing. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My roommate didn't get invited to our friend's bachelor trip, and now I'm worried that I have to carry the burden of telling him exactly what's going on. Here's what happened. So my friend and I met each other when we joined the same fraternity in college, and ever since then we became roommates, and we've all been part of the same friend group. He is a great guy that would do anything for any of us, and I would do anything for him, but there is a kicker. He has always been the socially awkward friend in the group. He has trouble effectively joining in conversations, laughs the loudest at his own jokes, his mom still makes frozen dishes for him that he re-ups on once a month, tries to play the band Korn at parties, and then gets mad when we take away his music privilege, and as much as I hate to say it, he is sort of the fringe and cringe friend in the group, and he's sort of there by association in a way. Recently, one of our friends sent up a group chat for a bachelor's trip to Ireland. A number of us guys are in the chat, except for my roommate and our other close friend that my roommate grew up with, and this friend sort of got him in the friend group. So basically, everyone got invited except for my roommate and his childhood best friend. I asked the groom why he didn't invite them, and he said he didn't want to deal with him for a whole week, and didn't want him to feel too left out, so he decided not to invite his other friend as well, while also stating that they're still invited to the wedding. Now, it sounds awful, but it's not my wedding, and I'm not gonna press it. I asked if he planned to say anything to them, and his response was to say, "Well, not really, but if they want to reach out, they can." So that leaves me with the potential burden of telling my roommate that he's not invited to Ireland, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, this really sucks because this is not an ideal situation, because your friend is essentially making some rift in the friend group that is honestly not okay, and it's putting you between a rock and a hard place. But I think there's an important fact about this that you really need to remember, that being that no, you don't have to tell him anything. You have every right to defer this over to the person who didn't invite him and be like, "Hey, I don't know the details, you can ask this guy instead and he'll tell you why you're not invited." Because in my opinion, if he's going to be the one to exclude someone from the group, then he should be the one to explain why that's happening and not you. A former employee was so bad that she caused my entire company to adopt a new rule where we refuse to hire mean people, all literally based off of the fact that she was one of the worst employees I've ever had to deal with. Here's what happened. So my wife and I own a balloon decor company with 8 employees. We take pride in paying a living wage and creating jobs for people who might not fit in the traditional workforce. And as such, we've come up with one indefinite rule in hiring where we say to ourselves that we don't want any mean people. And someone we will call Aaron was the reason we instituted this rule. For reference, she was rude to the other staff and sometimes the customers, and considered herself better than the rest of the sales team, but she also made frequent and sometimes costly errors. She would shift the blame when she could, or even downplay the errors when she couldn't. She had a steady stream of complaints to the boss, who is me, about her terrible coworkers, and a steady stream of complaints to her coworkers about her terrible boss. She loved snagging the high-value inquiries before anyone else, and then complained that we paid hourly rather than on commission. Our whole sales team, namely 3 people, had unrestricted access to QuickBooks, and it was built like that so that they could create invoices and bill clients. One day, my awesome sales manager told me that Erin had logged into the HR portion of QuickBooks and was quite literally looking at everybody else's paychecks. She wanted to know what the manager made so that she could argue for a raise. And by the way, it was a raise that she didn't deserve because she was barely holding onto her job at that point. Well, I just laughed because pay rates have never been a secret. The whole company's finances are an open book, and I feel that every one of our crew should be able to know our gross, net, material costs, wages, owner wages, debts, as well as anything else they might want to ask. And if she had asked me, I would have told her exactly what the sales manager made and what she needed to get a raise. But somehow she thought she could gain an advantage by being sneaky. The next day, I asked my bookkeeper to print out employees' pay rate, and I taped the printout to the whiteboard for everyone to see, and only Erin knew why it had suddenly appeared, and she was pissed off. A few weeks later, she was gone from the company, and I wrote up a who are we document for the whiteboard that every new employee will definitely see. It promises wage and financial transparency and is only one sentence capitalized: no mean people. Because trust me, I don't need another Erin in my office. Oh man, Erin sounds like an idiot. Seriously, she went out of her way to literally axe her own job. Like, does she really think she would be able to sneak into the QuickBooks and be like, oh yeah, now I know the actual secrets. Now I know what everybody's getting paid. This is go time for me. It's like, dude, you've got to know that your job is like on the line, right? You're not only complaining to the boss, but also to the employees that you're complaining to the boss about, and vice versa. Like, what are you doing? And for me, that's a big red flag the second someone's coming to me so willingly and being like, oh yeah, I've got so many complaints about this place, because you know for a fact they're going to be doing the exact same thing to you. So yeah, this whole situation is incredibly annoying, and honestly, I'm so glad you have that rule, because I would not want to work with mean people either. Am I the jerk for not opening the door to unannounced family members after they came to my house knowing that I didn't want them dropping by? Here's what happened. Okay, so where I'm from, people visit each other without any previous communication. The host then has to stop everything that they're doing and receive them, specifically if they are from the family. Now, I believe it's disrespectful to visit someone without justification or without a previous agreement. I know it's the culture of the country, but for me, it's like the visitor is saying, I know you have nothing better to do, so just drop it all and attend to me, disregarding any work or chore I may be doing. I've made it clear to my family that I'm strict with this, and even if I'm just watching a movie, playing video games, or looking at my cat, if you don't take the consideration of notifying me in advance, it doesn't matter if you're a few blocks away, coming from a different country, or from Mars. If you didn't text or call me in preparation to your arrival, you will be left outside and the doors will be shut. Well, a few days ago, my mother told me a cousin of mine came from a very faraway country and he was going to my house in 2 days. Well, I warned her I wouldn't be able to receive them because I would be working. And for reference, I work from home. Plus, I didn't wish to dedicate any time to them because my cousin didn't give me the dignity of knowing he was coming to the country beforehand. I mean, I didn't even know he had been around for like a week. I told my mother, do not come. I will not open the door. I'm really sorry, but no. Well, long story short, they came to my door anyways, and I saw my mother and my father and cousin in the security camera, and I heard them calling me. So I let them sit there under the sun for half an hour until they gave up and finally left. It is incredibly important for me that my word is respected. If I said don't come to my house, my wishes need to be respected or you will be left outside. I love my family and friends, but they need to respect me. This whole I show up first and I tell you later culture is way beneath me. So seriously, am I the jerk for enforcing this personal rule? Because at this point, I'm not sure if I made the wrong choice. No, you're not the jerk for one sole reason alone. You told your mom ahead of time you don't want this and she completely ignored it. And that, in my opinion, is the entire reason why this is messed up. Because you know what? I'm right there with you. I don't like people dropping in unannounced. I would much rather have them tell me they're coming so I can be prepared for them instead of them showing up out of nowhere and being like, okay, here I am, drop what you're doing and take care of me. Like, no, that's super obnoxious. And in my opinion, I think your mom and the rest of your family were completely out of line. Would I be the jerk if I refused to give up a water fountain that the previous homeowners abandoned 4 years ago? Because right now they're demanding that I hand it over. And at this point, I'm not sure what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, in September of 2021, we purchased a home that was built in 2019 and we moved in immediately. And the previous owners left a few things at the home, including a water fountain. fountain. Within the first month, the previous owner asked if they could collect the water fountain, and we said that was fine, but they never showed up. It's now March or April of 2025, literally 4 years later, and it's been sitting in our front yard ever since then. Over the last 2 years, I've been organizing, prepping, and designing my front garden where it will be incorporated into my design. I'm an avid gardener and I decided to redo the garden, but haven't yet planted anything, and it has taken me a while to actually get started for multiple reasons. The first year we were settling in, and the second year I had to learn about the seasons here in Florida, research native plants and the best planting times, amongst other things that had to go along with that. The most important reasons was because the house was built poorly and we had to repair an entire wall that was in the main section of the garden. So there's no point in me planting anything when we will be doing construction work. But after we finished the exterior part of the wall, winter started. The roof still needs repairs, but I have access to the area now. I planned on power washing, repairing, and planting the water fountain this weekend, but I got COVID and got delayed again. So I dismantled the fountain and relocated it to various places to be worked on. Well, suddenly the previous owner messaged my husband stating that he wants the water fountain back. It's his 45th anniversary soon, and it was his wife's 35th anniversary present, stating that he'll be by this weekend to get it. I told my husband to inform the previous owner that I'm no longer willing to part with it. Well, the previous owner states that it's not mine to part with, and he'll be by to pick it up. But it has been on our property for 4 years, and it's considered abandoned property after 30 days. We literally gave him the chance to pick it up, but they didn't do it. We are not a storage unit. I mean, what claim does he possibly have to come and get it? I understand that it was an anniversary gift, but clearly he didn't care enough to get it in the last 4 years. The house was brand new, but terribly built by the previous owner. Everything that could have been wrong is wrong. The roof is missing edge pieces, subfloor is uneven, causing the entire floor to be uneven with gaps in all of the wood. The entire house needs new siding because they installed the hardy board incorrectly and it's now falling off. There's 4 different colors and textures of caulk used in the backsplash of the kitchen. Screws were popping out of every single wall in the house, and the studs aren't even 16 inches on the center. And trust me, the list goes on and on. We literally have to rebuild the house from the bottom up. And before you ask, yes, we had an inspector, but no, he didn't catch any of these things. We're also trapped in the house because we bought it during a time when the interest rates were very low, so moving isn't an option. And trust me, we would if we could. So seriously, am I the jerk for not giving up the water fountain literally 4 years after he sold us a terribly built house? Because right now I don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk at all. This honestly is insane. You mean to tell me after 4 years this guy's suddenly like, hey, by the way, I haven't talked to you in almost half a decade, but now I'm gonna come and get that stupid fountain out of your way. Sorry about that. It's like, no dude, you're not getting it. This is mine now, you abandoned it, and we are not a storage facility, so good luck with that. And that honestly is the case. I can't imagine ever handing that over to that guy, because the way he's acting is super entitled and you have no reason to hand it over if you don't want to. An entitled Karen causes an accident, literally all because she couldn't wait in line because she was too impatient. So I decided to get my own petty revenge as someone who has dealt with this same thing several times by offering to the guy who got hit by this Karen all of my information so that they could nail this Karen for the idiot driver that she truly is. Here's what happened. Okay, so I have to make a left turn at an intersection where the line to make that turn backs up at least half a mile every workday. It's about a 15-minute wait when it's bad and about 10 minutes in normal traffic. A lot of people skip that line and cut off drivers who wait patiently to turn, and it gets hazardous when those same idiots literally force their way into the turn lane regardless of another vehicle already existing in that space. Early last week, some idiot literally just shouldered my car out of the way. They saw me, they heard my horn, they kept merging, and I thankfully avoided that accident and carried along with my day, although I was incredibly irritated. 3 days later, the same idiot tries the same thing on the truck behind me. A woman in a mid-size sedan decided that she was getting in the left turn lane no matter what. Unfortunately for her, the lane she was merging into was already occupied by a full-size pickup, and she probably could have realized that if she looked where she was going, but she didn't. She hit the truck and of course it damaged her car. Nothing major, it honestly just knocked off her mirror. Now I watched the whole thing because that truck was directly behind me. Her head never turned, she was looking straight ahead as she collided with that truck. Something about her body language and the fact that she pulled out her phone to record the truck after the accident that she literally caused told me that she was a Karen, and I just knew she was going to lie her butt off to avoid any kind of fault. Well, this is where my tiny bit of petty revenge comes into play. I gave the truck driver my cell phone number, told him I saw all of it, and I offered to share my observations with the cops or insurance company. This was not the same car that almost hit me earlier in the week, but it was the same entitled BS attitude. The truck driver's insurance called me the next day, and I told them exactly what I saw. It was enough information to exonerate the truck driver and put the fault on that idiot Karen who definitely hit him. I don't don't know what happened after the call, and I honestly just don't really care, because I ended up getting my petty revenge against one of those idiot drivers. Man, I know exactly what you're feeling right now because I've had that exact scenario happen to me. You're in a turning lane, you're trying to figure your crap out, and lo and behold, these people come out of nowhere and just cut right in front of you and ignore all traffic laws in front of them. It's like, dude, what are you doing? You're gonna get somebody hurt and you're gonna get in an accident. And then my rates are gonna go up for my car insurance, and it's like, dude, are you kidding me right now? That is so annoying. So good for you for doing the right thing and saying that you will be available to help this guy out, because what that lady did was completely unacceptable and she deserved to get punished. Am I the jerk for having cops at my dad's house, all while I move out and try to get my things? Because recently he's been acting very unhinged, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, my dad has never liked my significant other and literally can't give me a reason why. 3 days ago, he kicked me, my 8-month-old daughter, and my husband out after an altercation between my dad and husband. 2 days prior to this, my dad threatened my husband for something I did and assumed my husband did not hear his threats. Then 2 days later, he makes one of his awful remarks at my husband, and literally at that moment, everything just breaks loose. Now, things did not get physical, but they were about to before I stepped in between them. My husband then threatened my dad, and then we got kicked out. Now, 9 months ago, just before I gave birth, my dad begged us to move from another state and live with him. He wanted us to have time to save some money and get our bearings as new parents. But I was reluctant, knowing my dad, and just how abrasive he is, and didn't think it was a good idea. He insisted things would be fine, and we decided to give it a chance, knowing how helpful it would be to not have rent literally looming over us as we welcomed our new daughter into the world. Ever since we arrived, my dad has been nothing but rude to my husband. Without diving deep into the details, this has left my husband feeling extremely uncomfortable and walking on eggshells to keep the peace. At 6 months postpartum, my husband agreed to quit working and instead let me go back to work, which I really wanted. He was going to stay at home with the baby, and after a few months, he would move closer to his parents, who are retired and would help us with childcare. That way, we can both work and it can kind of work out. About a month ago, we let my dad know we'd be moving out and relocating 2 hours north where my in-laws live. And this caused a really big argument between my dad and myself, where he called me names and told me it was my fault he would have to sell his house. And keep in mind, we haven't been paying rent, despite every attempt every month we've been there to give him money. Ever since then, tensions have been growing. My dad has always made quite a bit of noise when my daughter has been sleeping, and she is not a great sleeper as it is. And we're up every 2 hours with her all night since birth. Needless to say, my husband and I are exhausted, and we are over him waking her up. 5 days ago at 6 o'clock in the morning, he is in the kitchen slamming cabinets shut and woke the baby up. I start work at 6 in the morning, and usually my husband will take care of all the baby's needs while I'm working, even though I'm home. The baby is quite particular at this age and wants me to do the soothing, so I had my husband move my mouse in the office while I put her to sleep. But the noise continued, and I hit my breaking point and slammed the door. Well, this set my dad off, and he was screaming threats towards my husband, assuming that he slammed the door. When my husband heard these threats, he wanted to leave immediately. After fighting with him all day to bide our time and stick to the plan for moving, he agreed he wouldn't say or do anything towards my dad, and we were just gonna leave in peace. Well, that is until 2 days later, when my dad made an awful comment at my husband, and my husband just unglued. My dad expected me to leave my husband then and there for disrespecting him in his house. Because I told him that was out of the question and stated that he made threats first, he made me and my daughter leave as well. He gave me 45 minutes to collect my things and leave. And you know what? We just left. Today, I let him know that we would be by Saturday to get the rest of our things, and also asked if we could leave for a couple of hours so that conflicts didn't continue. He told me he wouldn't let me get my stuff with my husband's help, as apparently he was not welcome back in the house. Then he told me that because I won't leave him, it was my fault that we would no longer have a relationship, and he wouldn't have a relationship with my daughter. I told him that I would be there on Saturday with a police officer, and I will collect whatever I can in the 15 to 30 minutes that I have. Keep in mind, my husband is a very kind and gentle man. He has never been awful towards me, never made me question his loyalty, and until a few days ago, has never been disrespectful towards my family. I mean, seriously, I've never even seen him be physical or aggressive towards anyone until then. I'm very hurt with my husband for going against what he promised me and haven't shared much words with him in a few days. However, I understand there's only so much one can take before they lose it. Regardless, his actions did lead to this. That being said, I'm having a hard time forgiving my dad for literally kicking me out like that, especially with an 8-month-old baby, and for him making threats to begin with, and ultimately for the cruel things he's saying and doing to me. So am I the jerk for wanting to have a cop there when I get my stuff? Because right now I don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk at all, and honestly, I think you're making the the right choice. Your dad is being completely unhinged and it's not fair. Like seriously, he's being really rude and he's treating you and your husband like garbage. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would do the same thing because the way he's acting is super toxic. My narcissistic boss constantly puts me down by saying that she's smarter than me while also placing herself on a pedestal that truly was incredibly fragile. So I decided to get some revenge by not only tricking her into not doing her job, but doing it in such a way where she couldn't argue that I wasn't doing exactly as she told me. Here's what happened. Okay, so about 20 years ago, I used to work as an office assistant at a small company where we would receive orders from clients, and then we would assign the work to one of our freelancers who were well compensated and respectable professionals. My boss was such a professional herself, and when possible, we would assign that work to her as well. I accepted the minimum wage job because she told me that I could sometimes get tasks assigned as a freelancer with a nice freelancer compensation, and that she would personally train me, stating that in less than a year, I would most likely be promoted to a regular freelancer and make very good money. So this sounded like a great career path in my young and naive ears. One of the things she had told me in the very beginning was that when you take over an order, you become like a project manager for that order. You need to make sure that the freelancer would finish the work on time, as the work was usually time sensitive. Additionally, she loved going on long lectures about how she is paying me for me to use my brain and figure things out when necessary. These lectures were mainly a vehicle for her to stroke her own ego by explaining to her employees how our brains were not as smart as hers. One day, our biggest corporate client had placed a large order that was due on a Monday by noon, and we had assigned the task to my boss to do over the weekend. It was Monday morning and the time was ticking, and my boss had not arrived at the office yet, and the client had called to see if we were going to provide the work soon as it was urgent. I tried calling my boss, who didn't pick up her mobile, and I called half an hour later and I even texted her, but still I got no answer or reply while noon was also fastly approaching. So I called her landline at home. Her husband picked up, told me she wasn't at home, and I explained very briefly why I was trying to get a hold of her. Well, less than an hour before noon, my boss called furious that I had been so insistent on getting a hold of her and that I had created a stage of stress and emergency at her house. She said her home number was for emergencies only, and this apparently wasn't an emergency. She said to me, "It's not professional to call people when they are not at work." She then told me she got everything under control and she was now sending the work to the client directly. Well, when she arrived at the office, she gave me a big scolding in person and told me that I do need to hound other freelancers, but not her. It was her business and she got everything handled. She knew all of the clients and they were clients because of her. She then looked me in the eye and told me, "If I take over a task, it's not your task anymore, it's mine. You do not need to bother me with reminders. You just give me the instructions from the client and I'll handle everything myself. From that point on, your job is done. I never ever miss my deadlines. If the client calls, you tell them I'm on it and you don't call me or text me about it." And you know what? Fair enough. But it was here that I decided to get my revenge. I then apologized for the stress and repeated the new instructions back to her for confirmation, and she was very happy with that and confirmed that I understood everything. She once more gave me her favorite lecture about how she is paying me to use my brain, with a lot of condescending examples of how she is always using her brain unlike us normal workers. And all I could do was nod along, as if her narcissistic rant was actually teaching anybody anything. Well, about a month or so later, another client came in with another order. So I accepted it and my boss was available to handle it, so I forwarded everything to her and I considered my work in regard to that order done as instructed. On the day of the deadline, I was on vacation and was hiking in a remote area with spotty cell coverage. Well, the other office assistant called me and told me that the client had called the office to check if the work was ready. I then just told my colleague that our boss was on it and that we didn't need to worry as our boss was going to handle it, and that my clear instructions were to tell the client that our boss was personally on it. The task would be done by the deadline, and that I was explicitly told not to call our boss to remind her of the deadline. Then, since I was on vacation, I needed to conserve my battery and everything at the office was handled, so I switched off my phone. An approaching deadline that my boss had to meet was explicitly not an emergency. Also, I had recently realized that my boss had knowingly misled me about the career opportunities that this job was affording me, so I wasn't going to be on call on my rare days off. While I was hiking without a care in the world, my boss had managed to forget about the deadline. By the time she realized she had missed it, the office was closed. My boss had urgently finished the work, but it turned out she didn't know the client so well as she didn't have their contact details. As the order was in the office and my phone was off, she had to go there herself, fetch it, and use the contact details to deliver the work late. This was particularly embarrassing as my colleague colleague had informed the client our boss was personally doing the work for them. Well, when I came back to work, it was absolute pandemonium. She screamed at me, but I simply pointed out that everything I had done was following her instructions. She would say stuff like, "Why did you do this?" But I told her, "Well, you told me to." And any other counter argument she brought up, I would literally just re-explain what she told me. Well, she was fuming, but she knew I was correct, and I had acted exactly as instructed. She also screamed at me for my phone being off, but I said I needed to conserve my battery for emergencies, and this was clearly not an emergency, and I'm not on call while on vacation anyways. Now, you might be thinking that this is a win for me, right? Well, narcissists never accept blame, and she had an idea of how to shift the blame to me after all. She said to me, "But you didn't provide me with the client's contact details with the order assignment. How could I have delivered them the work? It was your fault for not providing me with all the information." I then pointed out that she told me she knew all the clients personally, but if she had just used her brain like she is constantly telling us to, she could have easily noticed that the order instructions were on the client's letterhead with all their contact details spelled out, and it's literally on every single page, mind you, on the top and bottom of it. Now that was a huge slap to her fragile ego, and remembering her face in that moment still makes me smile. Needless to say, I was fired, but of course I didn't mind, because that job sucked and I truly didn't want to work there in the first place. Wow, that lady is an idiot. She seriously still found some kind of way of blaming this on you, even though you literally did nothing wrong. Because let's think about it for a second. You followed her instructions exactly. You repeated it back to her, and still it wasn't good enough. And the original poster is right. Narcissists like this will never accept any responsibility, and that's not fair for you in the slightest. So sure, you got fired from that job, but honestly, I think you could do way better than that, because this lady sounds like an absolute piece of work. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to drive if my wife is in the car? Because she is one of the most obnoxious people on planet Earth to deal with when I'm driving. Here's what happened. Okay, so for years after we got married, I could never figure out why I would be so angry and moody anytime my wife and I went somewhere. But then it finally clicked. I was only in a bad mood if I drove with my wife. My wife is the absolute worst backseat driver I've ever seen. It doesn't matter how I drive. She still finds things to complain about. She'll say stuff like, "Why did you go this way? If you'd gone that way, we would be there by now." She'll complain about me driving too fast or driving too slow. She'll say that I could have made a light or that the light was red and I blew right through it. She'll say that I slammed my brakes way too hard, that there are 17 great parking spots, and I had to choose spot number 18, which is apparently the worst. She'll say that I turned my blinker on too late, or that I turned my blinker on too early, while also complaining about me accelerating so slowly, while then complaining that I'm accelerating way too quickly. And this is literally just scratching the surface. So for the past couple of years, I have refused to drive. I now make her do all the driving, and lo and behold, I'm no longer a grumpy person when we travel. She has now gotten upset that she now is always driving and told me that I need to at least split it 50-50 with her. I told her that if she could just keep her opinions to herself while I was driving, then I absolutely would, and she agreed. So last weekend I started driving, and she couldn't even last 3 minutes without criticizing my driving. I then pulled over and I told her I'm done. Either she takes over driving or we're going home. Eventually, she took the wheel, which is right as she muttered that I drive like a moron, even though there's only one of us who has any tickets and has at-fault accidents on their record, and that person is not me. So seriously, am I the jerk for refusing to drive if she's present? Because right now I don't know what to do. I don't blame you for a second, and no, you are not the jerk. Your wife needs to chill out. Seriously, if you're gonna split it 50-50, then she needs to do what you're doing. You're not sitting there criticizing everything she's doing. You're not micromanaging her expectations. So why on earth is she doing that to you? It sounds incredibly frustrating and very annoying to deal with. And honestly, I don't blame you for getting upset in the slightest. Am I the jerk for refusing to give up my bedroom for my niece and nephew? All because my parents demand it, since my sister is now living with us after her divorce. But after I said no, everybody's now treating me really differently, and the entire house is very tense. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm a 19-year-old female, and I still live at home with my parents while I attend college. I pay for my own tuition and contribute to the household expenses when I can, but since my school is local, living at home saves me a ton of money. Recently, my older 27-year-old sister and her 2 kids, ages 5 and 3, moved back in after her divorce. She is struggling financially, and my parents are letting her stay here rent-free until she gets back on her feet. And I get that it's a tough situation, so I've been helping out with the kids when I can. Well, the issue is that my parents want me to give up my bedroom so that my sister's kids can have their own space. We have a small house, and my sister's already taking the guest bedroom, so the kids are currently sleeping with her. But my parents parents think that it would be better for them to get their own room and are now asking me to move to the couch or make do by squeezing into their office space. But you know what? I said no. I've lived here my whole life, and this is still my home, and I need my own space, especially since I have a heavy college workload. I don't see why I should have to be the one to sacrifice my room when this situation isn't my fault. Well, my sister's upset, saying that her kids are uncomfortable, and my parents are disappointed in me for not being more understanding. And now the whole house is tense, and I'm wondering if I'm being selfish. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because right now I'm incredibly annoyed. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. It is completely unreasonable for them to expect you to literally uproot your entire life just so the 3-year-old and the 5-year-old can have a place to stay in, which by the way, they can easily stay in that room with your older sister. This is not a permanent situation for her, as I'm willing to imagine that they're probably looking for an apartment of some kind. Like, they can't possibly be thinking they're gonna live here forever, right? So no, if I was in your shoes, I would do the exact same thing, because what they're asking of you, in my opinion, is completely unreasonable. Am I the jerk for telling a coworker to stop brown-nosing and sucking up by going to a funeral for a man that he literally didn't know just so he can look good in front of the higher-ups? Here's what happened. Okay, so last week, a long-retired former coworker passed away, and this is someone who was very popular and well-known in our company. I've worked with him in a close team setup for several years and was really sad when I learned that he passed away. Next week is his funeral, and me and some of my other coworkers who worked with him wanted to attend the funeral. But this is where the biggest issue comes into play. We have one coworker who has severe fear of missing out and is kind of a brown-noser to the higher-ups. He only knows about the deceased man from the stories that we tell about him. And he met him only once at a company function where they talked for like 5 minutes in a group setting. This guy is now running around the company and tells everybody how tragic the death is and how affected he is by this. Also, when I told my boss that I needed PTO to attend the funeral, I was told that it would not be possible, as at least one team member has to be present in the company, and said coworker had already asked for PTO so that he could attend the funeral. When I asked him if we could switch, he told me no, we would not be able to, because he wants to join the funeral, as it would be a good thing to join, and management will sure appreciate it. Well, that's where I lost it, and I told him to stop brown-nosing and making the death of a coworker that he didn't know all about him. Since then, he complained to our boss that I was rude to him, but most of our coworkers are on my side. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because honestly, I don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk at all. This really is super stupid. This guy doesn't even know the guy that passed away. He's only doing it because he wants to look good, and that literally is not a good enough reason to take off work. Like, you actually knew the guy, and now you're getting denied PTO all because this guy wants to go. So no, you're not the jerk for calling him out, because I know if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. My girlfriend has monthly mental breakdowns and panic attack episodes that quite literally reverts her back to being a 3-year-old, where she is screaming and crying in a way that is truly not okay. And now I'm wondering if this is actually someone I want to spend the rest of my life with, because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my girlfriend and I have been dating for 2.5 years now. We matched online and I totally fell for her. This has been my longest relationship ever, and just 3 weeks after we started dating, we took a road trip to go camping, and that's when I genuinely started falling in love with her. Only a few weeks after that, we started exchanging I love yous. She's been able to put up with my annoying quirks and I with hers. We enjoy so much of the same things, but also enjoy our own things as well. We love traveling and we've been all over together, and it's honestly the most fun exploring and experiencing new things with her. She's always open to try new things and experience new food and all this other stuff, and it's nearly everything I've dreamed of in a relationship, besides maybe 30% of it. The other part that is totally weighing me down as I approach whether I want to spend the rest of my life with her or not is that sometimes once a month, sometimes more, she has a total and complete meltdown, just totally non-functional. I've never seen another adult human cry like this, and we're not talking like ugly crying, but a 3-year-old temper tantrum level crying. And the first time it happened, I nearly broke up with her, but I have way too much patience and I just let it keep going. I weighed all the positives, and dealing with the one breakdown a month seemed worth it. Now, for some context, my mother growing up would also have monthly breakdowns. Although hers were slightly different, she would just get really angry. Plates were thrown across the room, smashed into the floor, there was yelling, and she would say she's gonna leave, and I just have many vivid memories of my dad begging my mom to stay, where he would apologize and grovel for her to stay. And these images are burned into my brain to this day, which is ultimately what led to their divorce. My dad couldn't take it anymore and started cheating and kicked my mom out. Well, every time these happen with my girlfriend, it just triggers all those feelings I have as a child, of being frightened, fearing my mom would leave me, etc. But I bite my tongue, I hold her, I comfort her, and I try to calm her down. And these go on for 3 to 12 hours at a time. I can't leave her alone because then she tries hurting herself, and if I try to do anything other than comfort her, it pushes her further into her spiral. She claims she's self-aware during these episodes, but she acts like she's reverted to a 3-year-old child. She is aware that this is a problem, and she gets angry with herself for letting it happen, even though I reassure her that I understand. I've tried to do research and help her figure it out, but she gets extremely angry when I put on my doctor hat, so I've supported her in trying to figure it out. She's been seeing a therapist weekly, sees a psychiatrist, has been seen by doctors, where she also did 6 months of therapeutic ketamine, and so on and so forth. But nothing has improved, and it's only gotten worse, with one of the recent episodes forcing me to nearly call 911 as she was driving at the time, where she then pulled over her car and started to run away with no coat in the middle of winter. And yeah, it's once a month like clockwork. My mother recently made the realization as she started to go through menopause, and her doctor diagnosed her with PCOS and severe PMDD, and that explains her major freakouts once a month, because now she's extremely calm. Even just 10 years ago, she would call me telling me about her plan to end it all, and now she's just totally normal, and she's expressed that it's probably the same for her. So all I'm thinking about is this: will this be my life if I choose to marry her? Can I put up with monthly breakdowns? I'm totally stuck because I do love her, but I really don't know what to do at this point. What should I do? Okay, in my opinion, if you did want to leave her, you are well within your rights. I totally understand that you love her and you do want to be there for her, but if this is too much for you, then you have every right to step away. That doesn't make you a bad person, it just means that you literally are not a good fit for her. And sure, she's having breakdowns where she's becoming a 3-year-old child, and yeah, it definitely sounds like she needs a doctor or some kind of medical intervention. And I think you're going about this in the right way, where you're like, okay, do I really want to put up with this for the rest of my life? Because I can confidently say, in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, no, I would not be able to do this. I would not be cut out to deal with this kind of outburst every single month like clockwork, and I definitely would not be able to dedicate 12 hours of my day just to make sure she doesn't hurt herself. At that point, it's time to get in a hospital of some kind, because that is not normal. And I don't say that to be insensitive, but seriously, let's think about this for a second. She's clearly going through some mental health crisis, and I guarantee you there's way better things that you can do to help her out than just holding her for 12 hours and being like, yeah, I'm gonna be there for you, which in and of itself is not a bad thing to do. But I really think there's better options here that someone who's actually qualified for this can help her out with. So no, you would not be the bad guy if you did walk away from this relationship, because I know if I was in your shoes, I don't think I would ever be able to put up with this. My super religious parents don't know that I'm gonna be moving out and living with my boyfriend, and because of their religious choice, I honestly am so worried they're gonna judge me harshly and possibly reject me entirely, making me feel incredibly worried and very concerned. Here's what happened. So my boyfriend and I have been dating since June of 2024 and made our relationship official in August. So far, we have a very loving and healthy relationship with great communication. We both see this as a long-term commitment and are marriage-minded, so we actively work on a relationship and don't let small issues break us apart. Although my boyfriend has his own place, he has essentially been living with me since November while still paying his own bills from afar. My name is the only one on my lease, and I don't receive any financial support from my parents. I have a stable job and so does he. And since we both work from home, we spend almost all of our time together. Recently, we applied for a new apartment together and got approved. We're set to move in at the end of April, and this is an exciting step for us, but I'm struggling with how to tell my parents. My parents are very religious and have strict beliefs about relationships. We can't spend quality time together before marriage, if you know what I mean. We can't have any sleepovers. There's no living together before marriage, and ideally, I should be with someone who shares those same values. Now, I don't agree with all of their views, especially regarding living together before marriage. I believe it's a smart decision because it allows me to see how my partner operates daily and ensures that we are truly compatible before making a lifelong commitment. Up until now, I have never told my parents when I spent the night with a boyfriend, let alone that my current boyfriend has been staying with me for months. I know that revealing our new living situation will disappoint them, and it may cause strain in our relationship. However, I've spent my entire life trying to please them, hiding parts of me that don't align with their beliefs, and it has made me very miserable. And you know what? I don't want to keep living like that. I want to be honest about my choices and have them accept me even if they don't agree. So for those who have been in similar situations or have any advice on me finally putting my foot down on my independence, how should I handle this in a respectful but firm way? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, first and foremost, I think you need to take a step back and realize that you are an adult now. For reference, the original poster here is 23 and their boyfriend is 24. So seriously, if you wanted to live with your boyfriend, you absolutely have every right to, regardless of what your parents think. That really is something you can do, and it really will be okay. In terms of how to talk about it, honestly, that's between you and your parents. You know them way better than anybody possibly could, so you know how they're gonna react, and from the sounds of it, they're probably gonna be disappointed pretty much no matter matter what. It doesn't really sound like you're gonna win them over anytime soon, and there may be a chance that they just don't accept what you're doing and they're like, wow, this is wrong. Even though I think that you have every right to move in with your boyfriend if you want to. So I think if I was in your shoes, I would be as open and honest as possible while still trying to like carve some kind of like connection with them still, because from the sounds of it, they seem really strict, but it doesn't sound like they're the type of people who would like cut you off all of a sudden, all because you're doing something they don't completely agree with. So yeah, hopefully this all works out in some kind of way, because this really does sound like a tricky situation, and it totally makes sense as to why you would be hesitant about having this conversation with your parents in this way. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.